And we're going to be turning your attention, as you know, to 2006, the year 2016 primarily. Did you live at the K Lake Roadhouse in 2016?
Yes.
Who lived with you in 2016?
My boyfriend, my 2 sons, and one of my stepdaughters.
And give me some names. Your boyfriend's name, please.
Philip Seal,
And your 2 sons.
Damien and Devon Peterson.
And how old were they in November of 2016?
Devon was 18, Damien was 19.
And then you said you had a daughter too?
My stepdaughter.
Stepdaughter, was she younger or older?
Yeah, she was younger. She was, I want to say 17.
All right. And she has nothing to do with this
No.
stuff, right? Okay.
No.
So let me run some names by you and talk to you about some relationships first, all right? First of all, Devon, he's your biological son,
Yes,
and Damien is also?
yes.
And you said Devon was living with you in 2016. Was he going to school, or what was he doing in 2016?
I don't believe he was going to school at that time.
How was he occupying his time in 2016?
Well, he would go to school, but then would leave school. I thought he was in school.
Which
So,
school are we talking about?
He was in Colony High School.
And would he have been a senior,
He was a junior,
junior in 2016?
I believe so.
And how would he get back and forth to school? Did he have a vehicle?
Take the bus.
Take the bus?
I would drive them to the bus stop in Wasilla.
Okay, I was gonna say, because your house is pretty far from Colony, right?
Yeah, it was a better school.
All right, and so you would drop him off and then he would take the bus?
Yeah.
All right. But it came to your attention that he did not always make it to Colony?
Yes. He would make it, but then they would leave.
Okay.
They would leave school after they got there off the bus.
And how did it come to, was it come to your attention from the school or
The school.
from Devon confessing to you that he was
The
not?
school, then he confessed it when I confronted him with it.
Now, other people, Austin Barrett, are you familiar with that person?
Yes.
How were you familiar with that person? And let's keep it to in 2016, before November of 2016. But if you knew him even before 2016, describe that.
I only know him from Devon. I believe he met him at school, but I'm not 100% where he met him.
And
He
was
was
it,
one of his friends.
when did you get to know him, in 2016?
Probably a couple of months before all this happened.
Did Austin Barrett come to your house on occasion?
Yes.
So you had a chance to see interaction between Devon and Austin Barrett. How would you describe the interaction between Devon and Austin Barrett?
What do you mean?
Like, what did they do?
They were friends.
Yeah, what did they do? Were they best friends? What did they do?
They were
together?
friends. They would ride dirt bikes and 4-wheelers, and at first that's how it was.
And then how did it progress after that?
After the dirt bikes and 4-wheelers broke down, the kids started doing questionable things.
Okay. And we'll get into the gang stuff. I'm gonna ask you some questions about that. But let's just focus on relationships and friendships now. So, Dominic Johnson, did you get to know that person?
Yes.
And how did you get to know Dominic Johnson?
He was also one of their friends.
And did you know how old Austin was in 2016 or not?
I believe he was 18, maybe 19.
Okay. Now, go ahead. Dominic Johnson, was he a friend of Devon's also?
Yes.
A good friend of Devon's?
Yeah.
What type of activities did they engage in?
Same. They all,
Hanging out?
It was all, at first, all these kids would ride dirt bikes and go have fun that I thought was normal.
Okay. And did you know how old Dominic Johnson was in November of 2016?
I believe he was 16.
And he had been at your house before?
Yes.
All right. Let's turn our attention to the defendant in this case, Bradley Renfro. Do you recognize him?
Yes.
Okay, and he's at the table here?
Yes.
All right. Did you get to know him in 2016? Did you get to know him through Devon or through other people?
Through Devon,
And was he a friend of Devon's?
yes,
And were they close?
yes.
How frequently did Bradley Renfro hang out with Devon?
Frequently,
Was he at your house frequently?
frequently.
Frequently meaning what?
Every day to every other day.
All right.
A lot of them stayed the night at my house a lot, ate at my house, hung out at my house.
Okay.
It was all the time for a while.
All right. Because it was summer? Is that what you're saying? And there was no school and they were all hanging out together most every day in 2016? Or are we talking about?
No, it wasn't summer
No?
because they were already in school.
Oh, so you're talking about fall of 2016? And you're talking like, did you work during that time, ma'am?
Yes,
And what were your work hours during that time?
I worked 14-hour days.
So when would you see him hanging out?
In the evening, after I got off work, all the kids would be together.
Okay. And also, like, do you have photographs of all of them together? Do
I
you
do.
personally have photographs of all of them together?
I do.
And what kind of photographs? What's depicted in the photographs?
I've got one where Brad and Austin are in my hallway, because I have a small house, and they were in the hallway asleep. That's
Okay.
one of them.
Oh,
Just random pictures.
okay. And was it your opinion that they were a close-knit group, all of them?
Oh, yeah, they were.
Okay. And I don't know, you know, with previous witnesses, we explored, well, who was better friends with whom and all that, but were you able to determine that, or were they just all?
I think they were all just really good friends.
And in the people I've mentioned thus far, was anybody forced to be in this group?
No.
Did you even get any, did you see anything that would indicate that somebody was being dragged into the group or forced to
No.
be? No?
I would have said something
All
to
right.
them
Was
if I
it,
thought that.
from what you saw, was it 100% voluntary as everybody's participation in the group?
Well, yeah, they all hung out. They were friends.
How about the person I haven't mentioned yet, Eric Allmendinger? Did you meet him during 2016 or not?
I did a few times. He was not one of the ones that really hung out at my house, though.
All right.
I did see him a couple of times. He came by, but Eric wasn't there all the time. Not like the rest of the kids.
All right.
The rest of the kids were more.
So as far as what you've seen, Eric, you did not see him very often?
No.
How many times do you figure you saw him hang out with the rest of the group?
I would say 3 to 4 times at my house. That was it.
And that's it?
I've heard about them being at his house, but I did not see it myself.
Okay, but only 3 or 4 times. Now, compare that to the defendant Bradley Renfro. About how many times was he at your house?
Bradley was always at my house.
Always?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
They were there daily,
Austin Barrett,
daily,
Dominic Johnson.
daily.
Now, did they all have vehicles? Did any of them have vehicles?
No. I would give them rides. My old man would give them rides. And then they would use Dominic's grandfather's truck, which I didn't know they did not have permission.
All right. But, so they got around, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me run some names, more distant names by you. Garrett Canada. Did you ever meet Garrett or not?
I did.
And was he at your house before?
Yes.
Whose buddy was he?
Devon's.
Devon's also.
Mm-hmm.
Did Garrett live in a different part of the state?
Not right away. I knew Garrett for maybe a month before he did move. I think he moved to Fairbanks.
In which month did you get to know Garrett?
Gosh, it was right when school started.
All right.
That was one of Devon's first friends.
Of 2016?
Yes.
And you mentioned the close associations among Devon, Austin, Dominic, Bradley Renfro. Was Garrett part of that group too?
He was, but he wasn't there long. He didn't hang out as much as the other kids did.
Because he moved
Yeah.
primarily?
Yeah, at first he hung out with them a lot.
Okay.
But then he kind of quit hanging out with them a little, and then he moved. His
All right.
parents moved.
Now, let me get back to you. You said you were working a lot during this time period. Where were you, give me an idea, where were you working? What were you doing? And again, what were your hours? Was it in days and hours?
Yeah, I worked at the Identica coffee shop in Wasilla, and I worked from 5 in the morning to like 6, 7 at night, sometimes 8.
And is that one of those drive-up
Yep.
coffee stands? And it's in Wasilla proper?
Yeah,
in
it's on
downtown?
Connect Goose Bay on the corner of KGB and Vine.
KGB and Vine, okay. All right. So you were working there, what, how many days a week did you usually work there?
Like 7.
All right. But what you described for the jury as far as observing the interaction among the group members, that was in the evenings when you were home?
Yes.
Did you ever have days off too?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
not very often. I pretty much ran the shop.
Okay. How about Eric Allmendinger? Do you feel like he was forced, from your observations of the interactions, was his association with the group voluntary also?
Yeah.
The next area I should probably cover with you with some photographs, and these have all been admitted already. I just picking and choosing some photographs. I want to show you some photographs and ask you some questions while I'm showing the photographs. And the questions are going to relate to whether you became aware that the group, the members of the group were acting like gang members, okay? So turning your attention, and this is not any particular order, I just grabbed some photos from here, but turning your attention to exhibit number 41, which is already admitted. Do you recognize who is in this photograph?
That's my son.
Okay. And there's been some testimony that this is, gang-related type stuff, right? That he's got a couple of guns and he's got a saying here, which can be related to the Crip gang. Did you see this type of activity? When I say activity, I'm strictly limiting it to them in your presence acting like gangsters or gang members in your presence.
I
And
wouldn't.
we'll cover photos that you may have seen also.
I wouldn't say they really did. They tried not to. I mean, I'm a parent,
Okay.
so they don't just come out and throw gang signs, but they were. I don't even know how to explain that one.
Let me try to make it easier. Devon didn't do this in your presence,
No.
right?
No.
And had he done it in your presence, would there have been some words?
We would have had an issue.
Okay. I understand you had some rules in your house, right?
Yes.
What were the rules about firearms in your
No
house?
guns. I don't believe in guns.
Okay, now, is this your house here?
Nope.
No, it's someplace else?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll get to when they did find some guns in your house.
Yeah.
We'll get that a little bit later, but I'm just trying to go slowly through this. So, somebody else's house, did you ever see this photo
I believe I did in the last trial.
in court proceedings?
Yeah.
Okay, but you never came to your attention during 2016?
No.
Right, okay. As opposed to this, tell the jury, what did you see them do in your presence that may have been related to this? Or either what they did or what they said in your presence that may have some relation to emulating
Also
gangs?
hearsay, and also the standing objection on the gangs.
Well, the
You-
gang stuff was admitted.
You need to lay a foundation as to
Well, I would-
what she said, and then I have to know kind of where you're going. with
Right,
it,
well,
so.
number one, it's not hearsay, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted. Number two, the
But
court's-
who are you, which defendant is she
Yeah,
talking
I'll-
about?
Let's talk about Devon. Did you ever see him do any kind of gang stuff?
What exhibit is this one?
41 is the
It's
one.
still 41.
The
okay.
first one I asked her about.
Okay.
Ask me again.
Did you ever see Devon in your presence act in any way like he was being a gang member?
Yes.
Like, what kind of things did you see?
Just make weird comments, and then I would get on to him and tell
Like-
him he's not a gangster.
Can you give us a little bit of insight into as to
Oh.
what kind of comment he would make?
I don't know. Just being rough, and I can't say exactly verbatim what he had said to me,
But
because
it-
this was a while ago.
All right.
But I do remember getting on to him
And what did you tell
about
him?
his verbiage.
Okay.
I basically told him, you're not a gangster, and being a gangster isn't
Yeah.
cool. People
Spence
try to
wants to
portray it
approach.
to be cool.
Did you believe that your son Devon was a true gang member?
No.
In other words, did you have any evidence, any personal observations that would make you believe that he was a true gang member?
No.
Turning your attention to State's Exhibit number 40. Okay, do you recognize the people in that exhibit?
I do.
All right. Who are the people in this exhibit?
I believe his name is David.
Evans?
Yes. That's Brad, and that's Eric.
How did you know David Evans?
I didn't really know that kid too much. He didn't hang around with them, not at my house anyway. I probably saw him a couple times at my house.
All right. And the
But-
middle one is Bradley Renfro?
Yes,
And Eric Allmendinger?
yes.
Now, when you look at this photograph, what comes to your mind?
I don't know, heathens.
I mean, let me ask you specific questions. Look at their hands, they're doing the C sign. Did you ever see?
Go ahead and rephrase it, go ahead.
I didn't hear the objection.
Yeah, you just, basically, it's too leading, so just
It's
give a
leading
general
because I'm
question.
pointing out something about this admitted exhibit to her and gonna ask a
Okay.
question about it. I guess I would say that's not leading, I'm directing her to a particular facet of the exhibit.
Well, just get to the question, that's all.
Did you ever see any of them doing the C sign?
No,
No? And again, because they wouldn't do it in front of you?
no.
But have you ever seen this photo in 2016?
I don't remember seeing that photo.
Did you ever snoop around on any of Devon's devices or
No.
not? Okay. No,
I probably should have.
but you definitely recognize the people in this photograph, right?
Yes.
How about apparel? You see in State's Exhibit number 40 that Allmendinger and Evans are wearing blue bandanas. Did you see any of the group wearing blue bandanas in
No.
front of you?
No.
No? But I talked to you about Devon. You said he was kind of acting with a certain bravado that you didn't like?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a yes?
Yes,
Were any of the other people that I mentioned, that you said frequented your house almost every day, were they taking on that kind of bravado too, that
yeah,
behavior?
yes.
Okay, and again, you can't put your finger on it exactly?
It's just stupid things they would say, and I can't verbatim tell you what, it's been too long.
Okay, but as a
But
parent?
I do remember
All right,
getting on to the kids.
okay. Number 183 is another one with the blue bandana and the C, and you're saying you never saw them doing the
Mm-mm.
C in front of you,
No.
correct? And then exhibit number 44, another one. Who's in this one again?
That's Eric and Brad, and I think that's David.
And you never saw him doing this
No.
type of stuff in front of you?
No.
Let me show you what's been marked the state's proposed exhibit number 299. Do you recognize the people in that exhibit?
Yes.
Who are the people in that exhibit?
It's my son and Austin Barrett.
Was that at your house or not?
No, it doesn't look like it.
Now,
I didn't have
again,
red doors in my home.
I'm sorry.
I didn't have red doors in my home.
Okay. Now, as far as their, I know we know people change over years as far as physical appearance. As far as their physical appearance, is that the way they looked in 2016?
Yes.
Okay, now, is this something they would do in your presence in 2016?
No.
Okay. And again, back to the gun issue. I understand you told the jury that your house rules were no guns in the house. How about rules for your son Devon as far as having firearms in other places outside the house? Did you have any rules about that?
We didn't want him anywhere near our property. That was not allowed anywhere on our property.
How about like if he's at school or a friend's house, was he allowed?
I just didn't want him to have guns, period.
And I should ask you, did you personally provide any firearms to Devon Peterson?
No. I don't own any firearms. I never have.
Or did your boyfriend back then
No.
provide any firearms to him?
No, he didn't own any either.
Or did you see, let's expand that even further, did you see any firearms in your house during 2016?
Nope.
I'd move for the admission of 299.
No objection.
So admitted.
And let me ask you, did Devon, as to that exhibit, did Devon usually wear a hood, or did he have it down usually, or what can you tell us? Or-
Just depended. Sometimes he had his hood on, sometimes he didn't.
And as far as you know, so we know that this is a photo, looks like Devon's taken this photo, right?
Yeah,
And maybe a photo of a mirror,
I'm not sure.
right? Because it's not a selfie, because it's not holding his hand out. But, so he had a phone, right?
Yes,
Did the others have phones
I'm pretty sure.
on occasion, or did you not really pay attention?
I didn't really pay attention to that.
Right. Now, were you there when the police came to your house? Let's stay on the subject of guns. Were you there when the police came to your house in December of 2016?
Which time?
When they found the guns.
No, I was at work.
So you understand they did find some guns at your house?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes,
And, the jury's heard from a witness that was involved in that search warrant execution. And I'm assuming that, you didn't really want police to be searching your house, right?
no.
Okay. I want to show you a particular backpack and see if you recognize it from back then.
Okay.
This is State's Exhibit number 4. This was the backpack that was taken from your house where the guns were found. So I'm just wondering, I'm not suggesting that an answer, just wondering, had you seen this backpack
No.
before? Or do you know whose backpack this was?
I do not.
Well, let's try to narrow it down a little bit. Are you familiar with Devon's belongings?
Yes, and that was not his belonging.
Okay. Are you familiar with Damien's belongings
Yes.
since he lived there?
Yes.
Was this his backpack?
No.
Were you familiar with your daughter's belongings?
Yes,
Was this her backpack?
No.
Were you familiar with your boyfriend's belongings? Was this his backpack?
No, that
Okay.
wasn't anybody in my household's backpack.
All right. Now, we also heard from Sergeant Ingram that in close proximity was a somewhat unusual hat. State's exhibit number 303.
Oh, that's weird.
Same questions, you ever see anybody wearing this hat
No.
before? Okay. Now, we also heard that in that proximity of the backpack and the handguns was a wallet containing Austin Barrett's identification. Okay, so I want to ask you, did Austin Barrett leave belongings at your house usually or not?
It's a possibility.
And did he spend nights at your house
Yes.
before?
Yes, lots of them.
Right. Did you keep track of exactly what possessions Austin Barrett had?
No,
Or what clothes he was wearing?
no.
I suppose, I should also ask you, as it relates to people, did you know Austin Barrett's parents personally?
No.
Did you know Bradley Renfro's parents personally?
I met his father. I never met his mother, I don't believe.
How many times did you meet his father?
A few times.
A few times.
We went to take the kids to Job Corps, and he was there.
All right. What was you, Devon, Bradley, and Russell Renfro, his father?
There was me, Devon, Bradley's father, Bradley, Garrett was there, and Austin.
And when was that? Give us a time frame, if you would, ballpark.
Gosh. Maybe October?
Of 2016?
Maybe, yeah, because all the kids were, I'm finding out they're not going to school. So I was trying to get them into something, because I kept telling them they were headed for prison if they didn't.
How about
Go to
Dominic
school.
Johnson's parents? Did you ever meet them personally?
Maybe twice.
How about
Times, maybe.
How about Eric Allmendinger's parents? Did you meet them?
Yeah, I met his father.
Okay. So, as far as you know, that everybody in the group have parents,
Yes.
and as far as you know, that those parents, well, and as far as you knew, I didn't even finish my question.
Finish the question, but don't put the answer in, so go
I'm
ahead.
not.
Okay. go ahead.
And as far as you knew, did those parents all have houses?
Yes. Austin was the only one that really didn't go home.
At all?
If that makes sense.
At all?
I believe he was kicked out. Well, that's what I was told.
But
That's why he was at my house most of the time.
But he's an adult, right?
Yes.
So he could do what he pleased without parents having a say at that point, right?
Right.
Okay. But when you say he was the only one that didn't go home, all the other ones, did they go home on occasion? Or
Oh, yeah.
elaborate on that thought, please.
A lot of times they would stay the night at my house, but they also they also went home. Because I would not allow them there all the time. Like sometimes I would want a break from all these kids.
All right. So if somebody, called them homeless, would that be accurate or not?
Not really,
Why not?
because they all had homes to go to.
Okay. Either their homes or what? Or somebody else's home?
Yeah.
So going to when the police found the guns at your house, let me also show you the guns. This is State's Exhibit number 1. Did you ever see this gun
No.
at your house?
Oh.
Or did you ever see any of the people that I mentioned during my examination of you so far in possession of this gun?
No.
turning your attention to State's Exhibit number 3. Did you ever see this gun before?
No.
Did you ever see any of the group in possession of this gun?
No.
Or did you ever see any photographs such as this one?
No.
Where somebody is possessing this gun,
No.
number 3?
The only photographs I've ever seen with these kids having guns is during these proceedings.
When you saw the group interact, did they have certain lingo that they just used amongst themselves?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Certain words that most adults would not use in conversation, but they used in conversation?
A lot of these kids do nowadays. I mean, nothing that,
No, I know, but I'm talking in particular them in 2016, if you recall.
no.
No.
I mean, I don't know how to answer that. This whole generation talks way different than we did. So there's a lot of kids that say stuff that makes no sense to me. So I can't really pinpoint a certain thing that they said that,
One of the things I should have asked you earlier, are you familiar with any gang stuff? Like, did you know the Crips are a gang?
yes,
Okay, how did you know that from what?
being a kid myself, watching things, watching the news, seeing
Where did
people
you
in
Where did you
school.
grow up?
California.
California. So the Crips are in California.
Yes, sir.
And therefore, are you familiar with the rival gang, the Bloods?
Yes.
And are you familiar with any of the characteristics of the Crips gang, therefore, or not?
Not really.
No.
I mean, I know they wear blue and
Yeah. What else do you know about them?
that they're violent.
Okay. Like other gangs?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, you didn't think that any of these guys were real Crips?
No.
right?
No.
Okay. Like, did you ever see anybody come up from California
No.
and spend time with them?
No.
Or did you ever see any, Anchorage influence, like anybody from Anchorage rolling in and spending time
No.
with any of these people, with
No.
any of the group that I'm referring to?
No.
All right. Let's talk about the evening of November 13th. There's an exhibit there with November and December of 2016 on it, in case you need to refresh your recollection as to the, what days of the week or which dates during those months. Were you home on the evening of November 13th?
Yes.
And what were you doing at home? If
I
you-
don't know. I was probably watching TV or sleeping. I don't remember.
Who else was home on the 13th?
Oh, man. Philip Seal. I don't remember if my stepdaughter was home or not.
And did you get any visitors that
Oh,
evening?
Devon was home.
Devon was home?
Yeah.
Did you get any visitors that evening?
We did. They didn't come in the house.
Kind of, without me giving the story, tell us what happened. The chain of events on November 13th.
Devon's friends showed up. Brad, Austin, Dominic. I don't know if anybody else was with them. Devon went outside to speak to them. Then he came in. He was really angry.
And I might roll you back a little bit during this. Give us a time frame for this.
Gosh, I don't remember.
Was it
It was
dark?
at nighttime.
Was it
It was
dark
dark, yes.
outside? And were you already settled in for the night?
Yes.
And your boyfriend was settled in for
Yes.
the night? And were all your children accounted for?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you hear anything outside, or how did you know that somebody had come onto your property?
I heard a vehicle pull in the driveway.
And you have you had a little bit of a longer driveway there,
Yes.
right? Okay. And Did anybody come to the door, or did anybody come outside?
Devon went outside. I came out because I heard a vehicle pull up. I don't remember if I walked outside or not. I might have. But it was Devon's friend, so I really didn't think anything of it, and I went back in.
Okay, so you do remember walking
Yeah, I
outside?
think I did, yeah.
And which people did you see out there? Do you remember?
I saw all the boys.
Did you see Bradley Renfro
Yeah.
there? Okay. And did you see, and what, do you have a light outside? Or,
Yeah,
okay.
I do, but sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
But you saw Bradley Renfro there, right?
Yeah,
Positive of that?
yeah,
Okay. Did you see Austin Barrett
I
there?
did.
Positive of that?
Yes.
100% positive?
Yeah, I spoke to him.
You saw Dominic Johnson there?
Yes.
See Eric Allmendinger there?
I don't remember. I didn't see Eric. I don't remember if I saw
What kind of
Eric.
vehicle did they pull up in?
I did not see the vehicle. I only heard the vehicle. It sounded like a truck.
Did they park further down the driveway?
Well, I have vehicles as well,
Right.
so they would have parked behind. So yeah, I did not see the actual vehicle. I only assumed it was a truck because of the sound.
And the persons you identified, were they outside of the vehicle at that point? You were
Yeah.
able to identify them?
Yes.
Were you wondering what these people are doing at your house that night, or was this?
At first I didn't, but when Devon came in angry at these boys, then I was wondering what was going on.
Okay. I'm not gonna get into what Devon said at this point, but you perceived that Devon was angry?
He was angry.
How angry?
He was very irritated. I can't explain it.
You know, I mean,
Saying
I'm not
how
gonna get into
stupid
the
they were.
hearsay. What's that?
Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Okay.
He was angry. He was visibly angry.
Now, when you saw the others, like, what was Renfro doing? Where was he at? Standing around?
Yeah,
How about Johnson?
I was only out there for a second,
I understand.
and they
that.
were all talking to Devon.
So, when you say they were all Bradley Renfro,
I'm pretty sure.
Dominic Johnson,
Yes.
Austin Barrett.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing Eric. He could have been there too.
Did you
But this was a
overhear?
while ago.
Okay, did you overhear their conversation
No.
on your property?
No.
And did you go back inside?
Yes,
Why did you go back inside?
because it was Devon's friends, so it wasn't for me. You know, if it had been my company, of course I would have. And they weren't there very long. Devon spoke to them, came in angry. I think he went in and out a couple of times. I'm not 100%.
So let me ask you, let's stick with your observations. From you, when you went out there and saw Bradley Renfro and Austin Barrett and Dominic Johnson talking to your son, any red flags pop up in your mind
No,
at all?
no,
Or is it just like all the other times?
just like all the other times.
Anybody have any guns out?
No,
Anybody look like they were petrified?
no.
Just like old
I wasn't
times?
out there long enough to investigate that anyway.
Right.
I mean, I
but-
just pretty much seen who it was and went back in the house.
Okay. Now, when you say Devon was angry, did you perceive he was angry after his conversation with the others and
Yes.
when he came back home?
Yeah. He didn't leave. Devon didn't leave the house.
Okay.
He just was outside talking to them.
All right. And just, we haven't clarified this, was Devon home that night, the whole time that day,
Yes.
or that evening?
That night, yeah.
That night?
He had been at his girlfriend's earlier.
So, did any of them stay at your house?
That night,
Right.
they wanted to, Austin asked me if he could stay, and I had said no, because I had already, I'd say a few days prior to this, said I don't want the kids coming here for a minute, because it was just getting to be too much for me.
All right.
I wanted peace, and I had told him he could not stay the night. And then in the morning, I woke up and something told me go look in the
Oh,
car.
Before we go in the morning, can I just ask you a few more questions about the evening?
Sure.
So he asked you to stay in the evening, right?
Yes.
Okay.
After they
And you
came,
said no.
I said no.
And what did Austin do after that?
I thought he left. I thought he had left with the boys.
Because he was no longer in your house?
Right.
Okay. Did any of them come into the house
Just Austin.
to ask whether he could stay?
Just Austin.
And then did you hear the vehicle leave, or?
Yeah.
And you thought it was pretty much the end of it?
Yeah.
At that point? And the only red flag was Devon's behavior, right?
Yes.
What happened next morning?
I woke up and something told me to go look at my car. And I did, and Austin was slept in my car that night.
No, November 13th into November 14th.
Yes.
How cold did it get?
It was cold.
Was it Alaska cold,
It
or
was
was
below
it?
zero,
Right.
because I remember yelling at him. Because of course I didn't know what had happened, so I'm yelling at him, you know, if you really had nowhere to go, I would have rather you stayed in the house than find you dead in the car frozen.
And which car was he in?
A Neon that we had on the property, a Dodge Neon.
Was it running or was it cold?
No, it wasn't running, it was broke down.
And was he still alive when you
Yeah.
encountered him? Could you tell from that he was cold?
Yeah, I had blankets in there because I had cleaned these cabins, and I had blankets stored in bags in there because I didn't have much room in my house, and he had them all out and was covered up with them.
And what did you do after you found him in the car?
I yelled at him about sleeping in the car because it was so cold, and I was worried that I would find him dead out there. So I told him to come in the house, and he was in the house after that.
All right. What happened in the house?
I don't know much after that. I went to work.
Okay. Now, you did have a chance to observe his behavior in the house a bit. Is that correct?
A little bit.
Yeah. What did you observe about Austin's behavior while he was in the house?
It wasn't much different.
Okay.
It really wasn't much different.
You did.
I want to say, now I'm thinking back.
Yeah.
I think when cars were going by, and because people were getting ready to go to work that morning, and I remember him looking out the window constantly when you would hear a car, because where I live, it's really quiet. So if a car goes by, you know a car's going by, and he was like paranoid, I would say, and I didn't understand what his problem was.
And then you left. Did you leave first, or did Austin Barrett leave first?
I think I left first. I went to work.
So what time do you figure you left on the 14th?
7 or 8 maybe? I don't remember. I know it was in the morning, because I went to work. I work at the coffee shop, so it wasn't too late.
When does the coffee shop open? Maybe let's put it that way.
When I get there, usually I would go in at 5, but I think it was later that morning because it was light out. I remember it being light out, and in the wintertime it's still dark till about 6 or 7. So it was already light out, so I'm thinking maybe 7 or 8. But I'm not 100%, that was a while ago.
All right. And who was home when you left?
I believe just Austin and Devon.
How about your boyfriend?
I don't remember if he was there or not. He might have went to work too.
Where did he work at the time?
He does construction.
How about Damien? Was Damien home that night or
No,
not?
Damien had already moved back to Anchorage.
And how about your daughter? Would she have still been there in the morning?
Maybe. I
Did
really
she
don't
go to
remember.
school or did she work? Or
She went to school.
Which school did she attend?
Colony.
So that was a school day, right? Monday, November 14th.
Oh, the 14th, yes.
Now, your property, do you remember whether you had any gas cans? And by can, I mean either metal or plastic
Oh, yeah.
on your property?
Yes.
And do you remember how many gas cans you would have had back then on your property?
We have a few because we heat our house with diesel, and we keep extra gas cans, so in case we run out of gas.
Do you remember the colors of the gas cans you would have had at your
Most
home?
likely red.
All right. But you don't know exactly?
No,
Now, do you keep a strict inventory of the gas cans at your
No.
house or not?
no.
And where would these gas cans have been located?
They could have been anywhere on the property.
You don't know particularly?
No, they could have been anywhere.
All right. And
They could have been in the storage, they could have been sitting next to the diesel tank, they could have been anywhere on the property.
now, after November 13th, Was there further interaction? So you go to work, I get that, but let's talk about after November 14th, or after the day of November 14th. Did you observe any further interaction between Devon and any of the other people that we talked about during this examination?
I'm pretty sure they still hung out, but like I said before this, I had kind of stopped everybody from hanging out at my house.
Okay.
So Devon would go and hang out.
All right, so you wouldn't have, because you wouldn't have as much knowledge about their associations after November 14th?
No.
Would you say that it was less frequent than their interactions before
Yes.
November 13th?
Devon was home more.
Give me a moment. Thank you, man.
Cross-examination?
Morning, Ms. Peterson.
Morning.
I'd like to start with a couple of questions about the last line of direct questioning by the state. The evening or the late night of November 13th. You have a couple of vehicles of your own, right?
Yes.
They were parked in your driveway.
Yes.
Late at night, November, how dark was it outside?
It was pretty dark.
And the truck that pulled up behind those two cars.
Yes.
When you went outside that evening, how far down the driveway did you walk? Or
I didn't. I just went out the front door, saw who it was, kind of went back in. I didn't see it.
So you testified that you saw who it was?
Yes.
And did you see anybody in the vehicle remaining?
No,
in
I
the
didn't.
vehicle?
I couldn't see that far down, and I really wasn't paying attention.
And who are you saying you saw?
I saw Bradley and Dominic and Austin.
All right.
I don't
so-
remember.
All right.
I don't
so-
remember seeing Eric.
All right, so this is
But it's a
nearly
possibility.
2.5 years ago.
I know.
But last November, you testified differently in that regard.
I don't remember.
That when asked about which friends, you said it was Devon's friends.
Yeah.
And you were asked which friends, and you said you didn't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
So how is it that now, almost 3 years later, you're suddenly having a recollection of who was in or out of the vehicle?
I'm pretty sure I saw those boys.
And I'll ask if Mr. Provost has a transcript of that exact statement.
Could I approach?
Yep. What, can you show it to Mr. Kalichuk? He knows what you're talking about.
Well, that was a question about a conversation she had with Devon, not about her personal observations. So that's why I'm pointing out that the exact question should be read to her, so there's no misunderstanding as to what
That's
question.
fair, that's fair enough.
I'll read it. So, did Devon also walk outside with you?
Yes.
Right. And the next question is simply and. It was unintelligible to the transcriptionist, but in any event, your answer to the and was, that's when he told me that was his friends. And the question was, did you know which friends? No, at that time, no.
I don't recall that at all. Devon only had these kids that he hung out with, so.
You don't recall making that statement
I don't.
under oath?
I don't.
Can
I really don't. It's been a
Yeah, you can
while.
approach, go ahead.
This is this is a transcript from last November testimony. And the line of question on this page, if you could just read this bit here, see if this refreshes your recollection.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I mean, I'm sure it happened, but I just don't remember. A lot has happened since then.
So, you don't remember that. Isn't it possible that your recollection today is inaccurate?
It's possible.
So you could be mistaken about recognizing who was out of the vehicle and who was in the vehicle.
It's possible.
You know who the driver was?
No. I didn't see them inside the vehicle.
Did they walk up to the porch or they stood by the vehicle?
No, they were in the driveway talking to Devon.
And how dark was it? Were
It
there
was pretty dark.
streetlights?
No, there's no street lights down there.
And with your two vehicles, the entrance to your house where I assume you stood outside and stayed there?
Yeah.
And observed. You have, what kind of vehicles do you have?
In the driveway at that time, the neon, well, I guess the neon wasn't in the driveway, it was to the side. I had there's a Buick, Park Avenue. Trying to remember if we had the other Buick then or not. It might have only been one vehicle in the driveway.
Well, you have consistently testified there were two vehicles.
Okay, then we did have the two Buicks. There was two Buicks.
And the neon was out in the street or?
No, it was up in the yard.
Do you have a Suburban, Chevy, black
Oh,
Suburban?
yeah, yeah. It might have been parked up there at that time.
So the two vehicles you describe now are pretty large vehicles. They're not little compacts.
No, they're not. They're large.
And first vehicle, do you pull right up to your door or is there space
You
to,
pull up to the door.
no space to walk around or unload things?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I haven't seen a layout of your house or the driveway. How many, approximately how many feet away was the first vehicle from where you were standing?
Couple feet, maybe 3-4 feet.
Right up to the door, 3 or 4 feet?
Yeah,
And then, so then a Suburban behind it,
I don't know how the cars were laid out.
and then a
I don't
third
remember that.
vehicle, this truck behind it.
Yeah.
So,
If I remember correctly, well, no, the Suburban was working then. Dude, I don't remember exactly how the vehicles were laid out, but they were in my driveway.
and assuming, does it seem reasonable with 3 vehicles, the third being this truck that Devon went out to speak to those individuals, probably as far back as this wall,
Mm-hmm,
and it's dark out,
yep.
no lights. So you could be mistaken about who you actually think you saw.
It's possible.
Okay. You mentioned having met Bradley's father,
Yes,
and you met Mr. Allmendinger.
yes.
So here you are with a small house, and their boys staying with you?
I wouldn't say they were staying with me. They stayed the night a lot,
Right.
but they weren't like living with me.
Well, it's, what I heard in your testimony, it was almost daily that
It
they were
was.
together that summer, and
It was,
most nights stayed with you.
yeah.
It was a bit of a hardship,
It got to be a little too much. I mean, my house is small.
space-wise.
Yeah.
Food,
Not really with the food, but
taking them places.
Yeah.
I don't know, but didn't you wonder why, especially meeting these fathers, why these boys weren't staying at home?
from what I observed of Bradley's dad, he wasn't a very nice man. So I kind of understood why Bradley didn't want to be home. And I kind of felt bad, and I did allow him to be at my house a lot.
Bradley's dad.
Yes.
Uh,
Dominic's, I really hadn't met his mom and grandma and them till all this took place.
Did you know that Bradley's dad was an active alcoholic?
Yes.
And how did you discover that? Without necessarily somebody said this.
In meeting him, you could smell it. When people are drunk sometimes, or under the influence of alcohol, I'll say, sometimes they are angry, mean. And I observed that with Bradley's father. Even when I took them to the Job Corps and his father went, he just wasn't very nice. I pretty much felt bad.
Does anything stick in your mind about the interaction between father and son in your presence?
His dad was just mean to him. Bradley would go, I remember taking him home and his dad yelling at him. And I
Yeah.
almost wanted to bring him back.
Did you ever hear his dad say, "Get the fuck out of my house"?
Yeah.
So, when we talk about homeless kids, would you agree that it's not like they're orphans and they don't have parents, right?
Right.
So it's not as simple as saying to homeless kids who can no longer stay in their homes for those types of reasons. It's not as simple as, just go home.
Not really. Not with Bradley.
So kids can be homeless, youth can be homeless for many reasons, and it doesn't necessarily mean they don't have a home to go to or parents to go to.
Right.
They may not feel safe.
Yeah.
They may have been neglected, abused, emotionally, physically, right?
Right.
Was that your impression with Bradley's
I'm
situation?
gonna object this to relevance. It's opinion for number one. I'm not aware of that being any kind of defense to murder or kidnapping or.
No, but you did bring up the issue of the relationship and the kids, whether they're homeless, do they have a place to stay, why they're staying at the house. So I'll let him complete it, this line of questioning.
Well, I'll
So
likely have some follow-up.
that's fine, that's fine. It got expanded upon, but the door was open, so go ahead.
So on those occasions that you described, you stated you almost felt like taking him back with you. You made an interesting comment that, I don't remember exactly your words, I think it was, and this is over the line of questioning about some fascination with Crips from photos that you've seen. Apparel, throwing business owners, and we made a comment to the effect that it's just a different world than the one you grew up in, or we grew up in.
Yes.
For you. And regarding these photos and the apparel and, you know, these C signs and, my impression from your testimony was that you didn't see that kind of, you know, taking selfies like this, before these photos were shown to you.
No.
You didn't see those behaviors, when you were around that would lead you to think, oh my God, these kids are, you know, budding gangbangers.
No. They were doing normal, to me, was normal bad judgment behaviors that teenagers do.
And do you use social media?
Not really, no.
No Facebook? Instagram?
No.
Snap?
Nope.
Okay, thank you very much.
Go ahead, redirect, Mr. Kellerton.
As to the issue of whether you recognized the people for sure or not, now, how far is the Mile 49 gas station from the Holiday from your house?
About a mile and a half, 2 miles.
You go there a lot?
Yeah.
How often have you been there in the past?
Gosh, I don't know. A bunch.
Okay. How long does it take you to drive from your house to the Holiday gas station?
About 5 minutes.
All right. Are you familiar whether they have a number of security cameras at the Holiday gas station?
I never paid any attention, but I would assume that they do.
Okay.
Most of the gas stations have cameras everywhere.
All right. Now, if Bradley Renfro was on video there at the gas station that evening, that would corroborate your testimony that you saw him at your house, right?
Probably.
Objection, that calls for speculation. It's beyond the scope of cross, and in opening, we have already conceded that Bradley was there
Then,
in the vehicle.
okay, well, if that's a concession, I will accept that concession
just
without
move-
asking any
just move
further
on.
questions.
Yeah.
Now, Russell Renfro, you say he's a mean guy, according to your opinion, we're getting into
From what I
opinions.
saw, yes.
Yeah. Is it possible that he's just a mean guy even when he doesn't have alcohol on board?
Calls for speculation.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen him without him have been
Go
drinking.
ahead and answer.
Okay. All right, so you wouldn't know because he's always had alcohol on board?
When I saw him, yes.
Now, the issue of like why these young people were at certain places, there are a number of reasons why they were at certain places, right?
I would guess, yeah.
We've had testimony that one of the common denominators of this group was marijuana smoking.
Yeah.
That was an activity that every single one of them enjoyed, and that's something the group shared
Yeah.
on almost a daily basis. Now, did you know that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, some parents are not keen of marijuana smoking, right?
Right.
And that could become a serious issue as far as whether somebody's allowed to remain in their home or not, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And some parents wouldn't be keen on activity like depicted in that poster, right?
No.
And that could be a serious issue as far as the relationship between parents and children, right?
Yes.
Now, Renfro had another parent, right? Did you ever meet Brittany Smith?
No.
Did you know that he did have a mother that was out there?
Yeah, but I never saw her. I never met her.
Right. So you didn't know that part of the coin, right?
Yeah, I knew she was there. Of course, he's got a mother,
Okay.
but
And you probably figured that since Russell Renfro's so mean that the mother's no longer with Russell Renfro, or did you not know that?
If I recall right, there's so many of these kids, and if I recall right, she was married to somebody else already. And if I remember correctly, Bradley wasn't really over at her house either. I think that if I remember correctly, I believe that the man that she married didn't really want him there.
So let me talk about the other factors, because Mr. Provost got into Europeans about homelessness and impacts. We talked about marijuana smoking and rules, you know. Truancy. Let's say parents find out that a child or a young adult, whatever you want, adolescent, you can use a lot of different terms. Parents find out, despite them dropping people off at bus stops a month, they're not going to school. That could create an issue. They might lead to the particular adolescent going someplace else.
Yeah?
What I'm getting at, is it possible that some of these young men were kicked out of their homes because they couldn't follow rules?
It's possible, but I never have really spoken to their parents about that, so I couldn't make that assumption.
You know, model parents, you ever heard that term? I mean, you agree it's pretty hard to be a model parent?
Yes.
Like, you were gone, you worked from sunrise to sunset at
Yes.
the coffee stand, right? And a lot of times, your son and the people he associated with were on their own, right?
Oh, yeah. But as a parent, you know, you'd like to think that you've raised your kids well enough that they could be home alone, especially when they're that age, that you don't have to babysit.
Right. Like, for example, if somebody's 16, you would feel confident leaving a 16-year-old at home?
Of course,
17-year-old,
of course,
18-year-old,
of course,
19-year-old.
of course.
And on the marijuana smoking, was your opinion that that's something that just society tolerates nowadays, or what was your opinion?
I smoked it as well, so it wasn't a problem with me, which is probably not a good thing, but it is what it is.
All right. But in terms of the lines that you drew, okay, because you said you had the group over, the lines that you drew, marijuana was still in that permissible area,
Yeah.
correct? Guns,
No,
gang signs?
no,
Gang garb,
no,
gang activity,
no,
violence?
no.
Thank you.
I'd like to do a little follow-up.
Quickly.
This discussion generally about today's world and parenting challenges is quite relevant to this case.
Objection, that's not a question, that's a closing argument.
I'll sustain the objection. That's not a question.
Thank you.
I meant it as a foundation, but I accept the court's ruling. As a parent, is it uncommon that as juveniles become older, that they push back as a way of learning to become, knowing what, discovering what the limits are, with a desire to be independent, to break away from their parents so that it's normal
Yes,
maturation process. Would you agree that that all human beings have to find a way to push back to get to become independent
Yeah.
persons? And would you agree that how parents deal with that period of time in adolescence where they're trying to become their own selves and their own individuals, and how parents deal with that can have an impact on the trajectory or path that they go?
Yes.
Is there any excuse, even if you're not alcoholic, or even if your new spouse doesn't like the stepson, is there any excuse for kicking your 15, 16-year-olds out of the house?
Well, objection irrelevant.
I'm gonna
Other
sustain the
shootings, or
objection.
if they
I think
commit
we're
murder,
getting too-
that could be an excuse. If
I
they
sustained it,
hurt
Mr.
people.
Kalichek, I sustained it, so we're getting a little too far afield, Mr. Provost, so.
Regarding the marijuana, do you know where the boys got their marijuana that they could smoke every day?
I wasn't with them when they went to go get it, no.
And you weren't providing it to them?
No.
You didn't hear anything about they had access from somewhere else, another family, another parent?
No.
Nobody ever mentioned Mr. Allmendinger?
Not that I recall, no.
You didn't know he had a grow?
No.
Okay.
All right, thank you, ma'am, you can step down. We'll take our morning recess now and come back with our next witness.
Judge, I would just ask, can Mrs. Peterson be excused?
I
for
believe
this
so.
trial?
Yep, you can be excused from your subpoena, ma'am, and free to go.
your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in the case now before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. And for the record, would you please state your full name and spell first and last?
Rodney Richard Allmendinger. First name Rodney, R-O-D-N-E-Y. Last name Allmendinger, A-L-M-A-N-D-I-N-G-E-R.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Couch.
Thank you, good morning. First of all, Mr. Allmendinger, can you tell the jury where you live?
In Palmer,
And how long have you lived in Palmer?
since '93,
And specifically, what street do you live on?
Etsy Drive,
And what type of house do you have?
barn-style house.
And are there any outbuildings or attached buildings to the house?
2 garages and a shed.
And I'm going to be turning your attention to 2016, early fall, and then November of 2016, as you know. Turning your attention, let me first ask you, in November of 2016, let's talk about early November, who lived at your house during that time?
Myself, Mom, my son, and David Evans.
And when you say your son, who are you referring to?
Eric,
And your mother, can you give the name, just so we have all the names down?
Myler,
Myler. And how old was your mom back in 2016?
71.
And has she passed away since then?
I'd really prefer not to say. That's my own personal thing.
Okay, all right, but,
That's really none of anybody's business at this point in time, even my own personal opinion.
all right. Anybody else lived at the house?
No,
No. Why was David Evans living at your house in November?
because the boys were all living on the streets elsewhere, and in order to get Eric to come back home, he wanted to bring David Evans along, and I agreed, but the stipulation was that everybody had to go back to school.
Well, let's take that issue on head on. Why was Eric living away from your house?
He wasn't living at my house before that. He was living with his mom before that.
All right. When you said living with his mom, give us the months. And let's stick with 2016. Was it in 2016?
All through 2016 till he came to live with me.
And what's the mother's name?
Crystal,
Where does she live?
in Wasilla.
But eventually he stopped living with his mom in 2016
Right.
because of discipline issues, or what?
I have not a clue as to why.
And instead of coming to your house, he went someplace else.
Yeah, with all the boys.
Is this like what you heard or what you?
Just what I've heard
Right.
from all of them.
Okay. And then when did he come back to your place?
Boy, it's been 3 years. I want to say October, I think, beginning of October, I think.
And let me see if I can help you. Eventually, we're going to talk about November 13th, and we're going to talk about the issue of you being somewhat upset with David Evans because he had been away for about 2 weeks before November 13th, right? Looking at
1 week.
1 week. Okay, she's looking at the calendar, right? So, was David Evans gone the week of November 6th?
Yeah, that's when he left, was November 6th.
Right.
He was gone exactly 1 week.
And what rules did you have when, when did Evans show up with Eric Allmendinger?
Eric was home the whole day on Sunday the 13th.
No, I'm talking beforehand. You said Eric was out and about on his own during the summer.
Yeah, it was like the end of September, August, September, October, end of September. My other son was living in a trailer with his girlfriend, and they moved into their apartment. I want to say October 1st, I think that's when they were allowed to move in.
But we heard a little bit that your other son was living downstairs with his girlfriend, right?
No, he was living in the trailer outside.
Your
Well, yeah, they were earlier, and then when it started getting colder, then they moved in downstairs, yeah.
your other son and his girlfriend.
Right.
And then what happened? And then did they leave before David Evans and Eric Allmendinger showed up, or not?
I think that they were still there before Evans and Eric showed up.
Yeah, 'cause I think
They were staying in, I think I let the two boys stay in the trailer until Gavin and Becca moved out, and then they had to come move in downstairs.
right. And where was your trailer located?
At that time, it was located in the front driveway.
When they first came by?
Right.
All right. Was it moved later?
It was moved later because I had to use it to go down to do an event down in Seward. And then that's when I parked it in the back of the house for the rest of the winter.
All right. And I know you want to stay away from personal stuff, but the fact that your occupation and your shop downstairs, that does become relevant as to the trailer and why you were in your shop at certain times. So tell us, what do you do for a living?
I'm a stained glass, fused glass artist, which means I do not just little stained glass little pieces. I also do full-size custom orders for houses, windows, walls, archways, doors.
And do you work at home, out of the house?
I do.
Particularly, where do you work within the house?
Down in the basement.
Now, I understand you have two garages. Is one garage attached to the house?
One
Sort
is-
of
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
by a cover?
Yeah, I built the cover.
Okay. And then, did you build a newer garage on the property?
We had one built, yeah.
And what, does it sit a little bit further behind the
It
house?
sits further behind the house, yes.
And what was the purpose for that new one? What were we gonna do with that?
That was supposed to be, it was a two-car garage, but only a garage on one side, big enough to put my truck in for the winter. And then the other side is to be my workshop. It had all the outlets and 220 put in for all my kilns and,
So was that still a work in progress where you hadn't made the transition into that building yet?
right.
Okay. And the jury's seen some photos. Is that the lighter colored building, the garage?
Yeah.
As opposed to the older one?
Right.
All right. Then where is the shed in relation to the two garages?
The garage, then the new garage, and then back along the side of the shed. It's like a 20-foot shed or something like that.
What'd you keep in there?
Four-wheelers, riding lawnmower, miscellaneous crap.
And the camper, before November 13th, you said you had taken it on a trip and you brought it back. Where did you repark it before November 13th?
There's, it's just in the backyard, between the shed and the old garage.
How long had you had that trailer?
Couple of years, 2 or 3, something like that.
And when you said you let David Evans and Eric Allmendinger stay there, did it have electricity to it
Yes,
and heat,
yes,
but no water? right?
no water.
And no sewer, no bathroom that was connected to any kind of sewage
No,
system?
because in the wintertime, I don't want to winterize that. And everywhere I go has outhouses or bathrooms and showers, so I never,
Now, did you know David Evans before he came to live with you with Eric Allmendinger?
no.
That was the first time you had met him?
I probably met him when he came around with other kids, but I wouldn't say really met him. I mean, never really noticed him until he asked David to come stay, because he had nowhere else to go.
And was this the kind of situation where both you and your mother had to get permission for him to stay there?
No, because he was over 18.
No, but I mean, when either Eric or David Evans requested that David Evans stay there?
Did
you had
mom, did mom and I discuss it? We did.
Okay, and both of you said okay to that?
Right, with the stipulations of either, they go back to school. Well, that was Eric's only stipulation, he was going back to school, but Evans, if he wasn't going to school, he had to get a job.
All right. I talked a little bit with Ms. Peterson about house rules. Any other house rules at your house when they were living there?
Just the normal house rules, which are kind of made as you go along, you know, I mean, clean up after yourself, do what we say, you know, if you need help, you know, if we need help, we need you to help us, you know, things like that. Other ones was, if I'm off on an event, they are to make sure that they take care of grandma.
And we're talking about when again, when both of them came to live there?
Yeah.
When was that? October?
Yeah, it might have been the end of September, because they didn't stay in the trailer very long, because October 1st is when Gavin and Becca moved into their apartment, and then that's when I had them move in downstairs.
And then you're familiar with Christian Ward, your neighbor across the street?
Yep,
Christian hung out with Eric Allmendinger once in a while.
yep, when he felt the need.
And did you do anything to make sure that Eric Allmendinger and David Evans were going to school?
I took him to school every day. I drove him to school every day.
Which school did they go to?
Pathways,
Then how about on the way back? Did they just walk on the way back or what?
they sometimes I picked them up, sometimes they walked.
And did they have good school attendance in October of 2016?
As far as I know, I didn't get too many phone calls saying they weren't there.
Did that school have a policy that if a student's not at school, they call?
Right.
And were you on the list for both of them at that point?
I was not on the list for David Evans because he was over, I think it was 19, and yeah.
So you said you got a few phone calls from
Well,
what you remember?
get a few phone calls, and then that's when you see him or showing up as, I don't feel so good.
Yeah. Now, we discussed a little bit about marijuana smoking. Most everybody in the group, smoked marijuana according to David Evans and others. Do you have any rules about that or not?
And as long as I don't see it, I mean, what they don't do, you don't do it on the property, but I work all the time, I can't,
Well, let me ask you about that, and this relates to, some testimony we had about them doing it on the property, even on the day of the 13th. Were there times when you were much preoccupied?
Yes.
And describe for the, we don't know, is there, the business you're in, are there machines you use that make a lot of noise?
Yes, I
Do you
have glass grinders, I have 2 of them, and little cubicle, little walls to keep the splashing from going everywhere, that keeps it inside the little box. And of course the noise echoes inside there.
And do you wear hearing protection when you do this, or do you have music going, or what's the story in that?
I get the TV going,
All right.
and I turn it up loud. It's just for background noise.
Okay, now we heard you do it professionally as opposed to recreationally, so how many hours a day, ballpark, would you say you spend in your shop doing this glass stuff?
Minimum 18 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And you're 18 hours a day?
Yep.
When do you sleep?
With sleep.
Okay.
I commercial fish for 20 years, so I'm used to a very minimal amount of sleep.
So you move a lot of glass product, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
And that's your livelihood?
Yes.
So were there, as far as ages, you said David Evans was an adult, right?
Right.
And how old was Eric Allmendinger in November?
16, I believe.
Okay. Did you feel that you had to supervise both of them at all times or not?
No, because they spent most of the time in the bedroom. They knew where the food was, so, you know, they helped themselves and
Right.
come and go. But you have to make sure you're home at a decent time, but nobody had a vehicle, so nobody really went anywhere.
Now, despite a bit of school absenteeism, what can you tell us about your son Eric's intelligence?
Book smart, he's pretty good. I mean, I say he's very smart.
Math?
You know, I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he's bad at it. I'm not saying he's a genius at it, you know. I mean, I'm not quite sure what you want.
Well, I mean,
He's above average, if that's what you,
yeah, I'm just asking, did he get good grades? You know, was he a smart kid? Did he get good grades? That's all I'm asking, nothing.
he did get good grades.
Now, again, with the camper, were there times when they were in the camper unsupervised?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and likewise, were there times when they moved into that downstairs bedroom, were there times that they were unsupervised down there?
Well, I'm not gonna live in their bedroom and watch them 24 hours a day.
Exactly. And did your son Eric have a phone during this time or not?
A cell phone, yeah. Well, no. Yes and no, because he had lost one, then I want to say it was more of a tablet than a phone. Because it had cellular, you could use cellular data on it.
All right. Now, if we go before September, had you been out of touch with your son Eric for a while during that summer?
Off and on, whenever he showed up.
And what would he do when he showed up at your house, I'm assuming, right?
Right.
And what did he do when he showed up at your house?
Him and a friend or two would show up, or a whole pile of kids would show up, and they looked like they'd been camping for a week, you know, shoddy looking, and we fed them, let them shower, clean up.
You see that poster over there that's against the podium there?
Yep.
Right, so that is State's Exhibit 299, I believe, let me just double check that. 299, you recognize those people?
Yeah.
Do you recognize them, is that the way you've seen them before, or did you see them in a different way before?
I've never seen them look like that before.
No?
No.
How did you see them look before?
Well, I mean, I see him with the smile, but I've never seen Devon look like that. I mean, they've always seemed polite kids.
To you?
Yeah.
All right,
And
so,
respectful to grandma. 'Cause, I mean, only one time did Devon say something wrong and grandma slapped him for it. But other than that,
didn't you ban Devon from your house at some point, though?
I did, yes, I did.
What day did you ban him from your house? Without getting into the background of all that?
Yeah, that was a year before, something like that.
Was the ban lifted eventually in 2016?
I can't even say if that was really lifted because he just never really showed up, but once or twice, but
Oh, so let's stick on the topic of Devon. So he was not a frequent visitor at your house?
not after being banned, no.
And that was about a year before this happened?
Yeah,
Okay. How about the other person? Who's that other person?
well, at the time, I only knew him as Andrew.
And was he a frequent visitor at your house or not?
I wouldn't say he was a freaking, I didn't really see him too much at the house.
But did you know that he was a friend of Eric's?
Yeah, because came in, somebody beeping. Spent the night a couple of times.
Before November 13th?
Yeah, Yeah, I think it was once before and then once after.
Once before, once after, okay. And was that at Eric's request or at Andrew's request?
Eric.
And how about, so it sounds like he was not a frequent visitor to the house, as far as what you've seen. And of course, I'm just asking about what you've seen, right?
Right.
David Evans, of course, we talked about already, you let him live there, right?
Right.
Now, did you know Peterson's parents?
Not until the band.
All right. How about Austin Barrett's parents? Did you know them?
I've never met any of the boys' other parents. Any of the other boys, I don't even know who or what they even look like.
How about Dominic Johnson? Did you know him? And let me know if you need a photo to help you refresh your memory.
No, I know him.
Yeah,
I know him more now, but, you know.
right. But was he a frequent visitor at your house or not?
He, before, spent the night a couple times, and then after, I think, was like one time for a weekend.
Okay, so before the 13th, we're using the 13th as the pivotal date. He spent the night a couple of times or once before the 13th?
Yeah,
And how about after?
I think he was there one weekend after.
And did you consider him one of Eric's friends, or did Eric consider him a friend?
Yeah,
How about this defendant, Bradley Renfro? Did you know him?
kind of. I mean, he never spent the night at the house.
I mean, we'll talk about November later. I understand he was at the house during one of those days during the investigation, right? Him and Austin?
No, I think that was
December?
December.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. But had you at least seen Bradley Renfro before November 13th?
Couple of times,
At your house again?
yes.
And did you know him as one of Eric's friends?
Yeah,
Okay.
I assumed he was a friend because they were all hanging out together. So.
Right, otherwise, I mean, the only people that come visit your house would be three people you know, your mother knew, or that Eric knew, right?
Right.
Okay. So you saw Bradley Renfro hanging out with the others?
Right.
Did you see him?
Well, I say others because, like I said, we had a group of them. You know, there must have been like 15 kids, whatever, all showed up on motorcycles and four-wheelers, show up. And I guess they were out riding or whatever, and they stopped. Wanted to use the bathroom and eat. And then that's when Mom saw a couple of the girls needed showers and said, you go here or you go here.
Okay. What happened with David Evans that week of November 6th?
He said he was going to his brother's or something. It's been so long ago. I know he was going somewhere and that he would be back.
Back like the next day or something?
I figured back that same night.
But he didn't come back, right?
No, I didn't hear from him at all for the entire week. And then the 13th, I couldn't even tell you what time he showed up. I just know it was dark-ish. So my point of time is always off because we don't live in the real world where, you know, it's light from a certain time, dark to a certain time.
Right. And as you can tell, I'm holding off a little bit before we get to November 13th. I'm still trying to explore some of the situation before November 13th. But you said Renfro had never spent the night at your house, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, I don't believe he ever spent the night.
Now, you've seen some of those gang-related, I don't know how to describe those things, but.
Group-related?
With group-related, gang-related, however you want to describe, you've seen those photos before, right?
Right.
Was that on your radar when your son and David Evans were living with you in October and November?
Well, no, because I didn't see those pictures until all this started.
Right. So you never saw any gang-type behavior? Like, look at that the poster that I have marked as exhibit number 299, right? You said you didn't see that type of behavior.
No.
Right. And I'll show you some other photos. Now, you know the photos I'm talking about, right?
Right.
There are photos where everybody's doing this, the C with their hands. Did you observe that kind of behavior on the times when you saw any of these people?
I can't say if I really observed it. If they did it, I didn't really pay attention to it. It doesn't mean anything to me.
To you?
Because, I mean, these kids make so many hand gestures. I won't give the other one, but, you know, it just means so many different things. You know, like rock and roll, you know. I mean, you have all different kinds of things. You have Hawaiian, you know, there's a peace signs always used.
Okay, but you don't remember the C in particular, right?
I don't really remember this. Yeah,
So the other thing that appears in those photographs is the blue, especially the blue bandanas. Numerous photos of your son and David Evans wearing blue bandanas. Do you remember that being part of their attire?
once in a while, I mean, it wasn't an all the time thing, but it didn't mean anything to me. It does now, but back then, it's just a childhood fad thing is all I can say.
So did you believe that you were housing gang members in your house?
No.
No. Turning your attention, these are not any particular order. State's Exhibit number 41, did you ever see that photo before?
Who is it? Yeah.
Did you ever see it before this photograph?
No.
No. Then you know the person, right?
Yeah.
Devon?
Yeah.
State's Exhibit number 36, did you see that photo before or
Yeah,
no?
that's my house.
Right, but have you seen this particular photo?
No, not until, like I said, all these photos I've never seen until this all started.
State's Exhibit, I'll keep that in mind, but I'll just, for the record, I want to go through these just to make sure that you didn't condone this conduct. State's Exhibit number 29, did you ever see this photo?
No, but we know when that was time and date stamp, don't we?
I don't know, remind me.
That was about a month before all this
Okay.
started.
Okay. You found that in the computer?
No, I found that on his other tablet, because on his other tablet, because they took the one,
Okay.
and then he got another one, and his Instagram was still logged in, and that's when I, for some stupid reason or another, decided to look in it and come across that photo, and I went searching, and the time and date stamp didn't match anything he was telling me that it did.
Okay.
It wasn't any time after
Right,
November
you're talking
13th.
about the issue of whether this photo was posted by your son or created by your son after the murder or not, right? That's what you're
Right.
talking about.
This was created back in October.
Right. But nonetheless, you know, I appreciate you clarifying that for us, but nonetheless, if you had seen this, would you have had a chat with your son about this kind of stuff?
No,
No, because,
it doesn't mean anything.
okay,
I mean, like I said before, you would never have expected that because of now what situation we're in. Before, this would only mean, because he always considered himself a ladies' man. So you would think that it would be like, yeah, killer of love, you know, whatever.
that's the way you would have understood it?
That's how I would have understood it.
Well, exhibit number 40, have you seen this photo before?
Not before, no.
All right, now, any concerns, would you have had concerns about this had you found it before the 13th or not?
No, because I still wouldn't know what the hell that means.
Okay. But they're obviously trying to look like tough guys or something in this thing?
Yeah, like every kid in the world does.
All right. Every kid in the world?
Have you seen pictures on Facebook of 7-year-old kids doing the same thing? Taking pictures by their mom and dad?
No, I really haven't.
You
7-year-old
will-
kids?
I'm not kidding.
All right.
And there's videos.
How about number 183? Have you seen that photo before?
Not until all this.
Or 44, have you seen that photo before?
No, not until all this.
Right. But you really don't have too many concerns about these photos necessarily?
Well, no, because, again, it didn't mean anything. I don't know what those things mean. I don't keep up on the changing fads of children.
Let me ask you this, would you say that these photos are proof positive that they did certain things outside of your presence that you were not aware of?
Well, yeah, every kid does.
Okay, right, I agree. And then same with the marijuana smoking. If David Evans said that they smoked marijuana daily, would you agree that they would have done things outside, that would have been done outside of your presence and outside of your knowledge, right?
I would say so, yes.
Mr. Kalichek, when there's an objection, you gotta stop, okay?
Well, I didn't even hear the objection.
Speak it a little louder, okay?
Guns, did you have guns at your house?
I do.
Right, what kind of guns did you have?
I have rifles and a couple pistols, or one pistol.
And where were those guns kept?
In my room and a pistol in the cab of my truck.
And what kind of pistol was it?
44 mag.
And was that accessible to Eric or not?
If he knew it was there, but I don't make it known that I keep a gun in the truck.
But it's a revolver, right? The 44
Right.
mag? All right. We've had sworn testimony that this was your son's gun. Do you recognize this gun?
No.
Okay.
Before, no. During all this, yes, because he showed it to me before.
But you weren't aware, were you aware that he had this gun or not?
I was not aware any of the kids had a gun.
Do you know where the gun came from?
I have not a clue.
And you saw in the photograph there at 299 that Devon Peterson has a gun, right?
Yeah,
And did you ever see him with the gun before?
No.
On your property?
no,
And you see from State's Exhibit number 41 that he's got two guns there, right?
right,
Did you ever see those two guns before?
no.
Now, what was your policy on whether Eric could access your 44 mag?
I don't have a policy because I don't ever show him or tell him where anything's at.
Okay, so as far as you knew, he didn't know where it was at?
Right. And it's never moved, it's never been fired. I just use it for when I go hunting or where I go fishing, like the Russian River.
All right, now I'm showing you State's Exhibit number 4. I've showed it to a number of other witnesses. Does this backpack, do you recognize this backpack or not?
I couldn't tell
Or is
you.
it too many years ago?
Not just too many years ago, but so many backpacks.
At your household?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you if that was there or not, or if I've even seen it or not.
When you saw the interaction of the people in the group, did you get an impression whether anybody was in charge of this group? Or was it just a group of friends in your mind that needed no leadership or anybody being in charge?
No, the only person that seemed to be in charge of everybody was Devon Peterson.
Why do you say that?
Is it-
And I'm not talking about hearsay, but what personal observations do you have as to that?
Personal observations, they all, when they were at the house and feeding them all and stuff, that whatever seemed to have been said, they looked at Devon for if that was okay to say, or if they could say something, and he just, just gave looks. I can tell you what looks are, but just returned a look.
And those photos that I showed you, and the one that's there, 299, your take on those is they are not emulating gangs, they are just doing what all kids do? Is that your take on it?
Yeah, because there's pictures in my gamers group of gaming kids holding their pistols and rifles. You got the same thing on my hunting pages of kids holding pistols and rifles.
Now, how about the combination of things? Like the combination, taking all of the things together, the combination of the blue colors, the C sign, the guns, does that cause any concern? Does that cause any concern on your part?
I have to say, you're really a little weird with that question, vague, because you wanted me to pick on something that I know now versus on
Right.
something I didn't know
Okay,
then.
that's fair. You didn't know about these things,
Right,
so you don't want to you don't want to Monday morning quarterback this stuff, right?
right. I mean, I can't really answer that question other than yes and no. I mean, yes, I know now, no, I didn't know then.
But given choices, clearly better to go to school than to take photos like the ones I showed you, right? In terms of productive activity.
Yeah, I mean, the pictures, kids take pictures of themselves at school all the time. To look at every teenage girl, her pictures are in the bathroom school all the time.
We already have some photographs of your house in evidence, including the newer garage. There's three that I haven't admitted yet, so I'm gonna run these by you. State's proposed exhibit number 75. Can you tell us what's shown in this photograph?
This is the back of the garage that's attached to the house by the overhang.
And state's proposed exhibit number 77.
That's my trailer.
And this is still while it was on your property?
Yep,
Now, when we start getting to the 13th, you stated the Evans and your son were no longer living in the trailer, right?
right.
Did you have it secured for the winter in any way?
Put a tarp over the top of it
Was
and tie it down.
Okay. And is that tarp in state's exhibit number 77?
Yeah,
Okay, and we'll get to whether you saw it off the trailer or not after November 13th. And then state's proposed exhibit number 78, a different view. Can you tell us what's depicted there?
that's the side of the trailer with the tarp. Actually, a carport top.
I would move to admit 75, 77, and 78.
Objection.
So admitted. 75, 77, 78.
None of your guns are missing, are they?
No,
Now, let's talk about the week of November 6th. Was Eric Allmendinger living in your house the week of November 6th?
yes,
Any unusual activity at your house that week that you noticed?
no. You was school, home, school, home. You didn't have, David Evans wasn't home for the entire week, so didn't really do anything but play video games and go to school.
And was school 5 days a week?
Yeah.
All right. Now we're getting closer to Sunday the 13th. You remember the 13th being a Sunday that year, November 13th?
Yeah, if I look at the calendar,
Right,
yeah.
Right. What was, do you remember what was happening earlier in the day at your household?
In the day, I was working on trying to finish up a customer order that needed to be done, framed, cleaned, polished, and installed in the window by the next day.
So you were under the gun pushing that deadline?
Yeah,
Okay. And was your son Eric there that day?
all day.
And do you remember anybody else coming over?
Nobody came over the entire day. He just stayed in his room and played video games,
No.
World of Warcraft.
So we did have testimony that Christian Ward came over and hung out with Eric a bit that day. Now, you might have been in your shop, but do you remember seeing Christian there that day?
He walked by a couple times. I do, yeah.
Okay, and nothing unusual about that, right?
No,
And then eventually on that day that David Evans come to your place.
right.
Describe how you noticed that David Evans was there.
It was smoke break time, so me and the dogs, well, the dogs had to go potty. That's when I go have a cigarette smoke. Was sitting out in my chair, and he come walking around the back door. Dogs were barking like someone was there, and I just told him they were nuts. And then David Evans just comes around the corner standing there.
All right. I should have asked you before about the other David Grunwald. Did you know him before November 13th?
Yeah,
How did you know David Grunwald before November 13th?
he'd been over a few times.
Hanging out with Eric again?
Oh yeah,
Did you know him very well or not?
I wouldn't say very well. I mean, we've had some conversations.
No issues?
No, no issues.
Okay, back to David Evans. So now he's back at your house. He's been gone a week. Now what happens?
I told him, as far as I was concerned, you don't live here anymore. You didn't show up for a week. You don't call. There is not a single place that doesn't have a phone that you could have called.
Were you upset?
I was upset, yeah.
Was your voice a little bit on the louder side?
I'm loud anyway. I'm deaf in both ears, so, you know. I probably could have been louder.
And what was David Evans doing or saying?
Just standing there,
Taking it?
yeah.
Did Eric, your son Eric, intercede at all?
Yeah, he came out and tried to cover for him. You know, wouldn't say cover, try to help in my decision of not kicking him out.
Was David requesting to resume living with you?
Yeah. He just saying he was sorry, he was expecting to, you know, stay here. I said, you didn't call, you know, nothing, you don't show up, you don't say anything. As far as I know, you moved on.
So does that mean you had made a decision in your mind that the answer was no?
Right.
Were there any further discussions, or did you ask him to talk to anybody else?
I told him if he could convince Grandma, then I'll go along with what Grandma says, but I'm about betting Grandma would say no.
So I'm guessing that people in the household respected your mother because of her age and her wisdom, and, right, she'd been there for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And were you there when David Evans did go speak to your mother or not?
Well, I wasn't there when they were talking to each other because that's 2 floors up. I was down working on my project.
So did you have any more contact with David Evans or your son Eric after you sent him to speak with your mother or not?
All I know is that I assumed that David was staying because after talking to Grandma, he was still there, and they were going up and downstairs getting food and walking by me with food, and
So he had been there a while, he was there a while?
yeah, I can't say how long, because again, once I'm working, I don't normally look at a clock. I look at it at the beginning and I look at it at the end.
Now, during that time you saw David Evans and Eric Allmendinger walking back and forth and getting food, etc. Did you see was Christian Ward still there at that time or not?
Christian was sitting in the chair in the front room. I think I saw him through the window as I was talking to the boys outside, but then he was gone, I think, when we came back in.
Did either David Evans or Eric Allmendinger give you a heads up that David Grunwald may be coming over that night?
Not until way later. I can't say how later, because, again, I don't know what the time was, but, because,
You mean after the fact or still before anything happened?
after, before, it'll be a little more on the before part. Before having him before him talking to Grandma?
Well, just, we know that David Evans left eventually, but did you,
Before he left. This was before he left, before, I can't say, I want to say like his brother or brother-in-law or stepbrother or somebody came and picked him up. I'm not sure what time.
and do you know that because you heard later, or did you see that, or what?
Yeah, 'cause David come out of the room, gave me a hug, and that's when I found out that Grandma said no, he wasn't staying. Because I didn't know for hours before that.
And he had a bag with his belongings with him?
He had I want to say a backpack with something, and he would come back and get his plastic garbage bag later.
And so who was it that told you that David Grunwald might be coming over, to the best of your recollection?
David Evans did. 'Cause
You
we
mean-
were upstairs.
How did that come up, I'm curious?
I have no idea how it really came up. I may have come into the conversation because Grandma was sitting over here at the end of the island where she said Eric was across from her, David Evans was at the other end, and I was just coming in the kitchen, and that's when Evans was saying something about Grunwald coming over, and Eric looked in his tablet, and he goes, he's not coming over, no one said he was coming over. And he looked through his messages, and he had nothing from David saying that he was coming. And I can confirm that because I looked in his thing after everything, in his other tablet afterwards, looking on his Facebook, because it was still logged in. And
All right. Were you expecting any other people? Let's take David Grunwald aside for a moment. Were you expecting any other people that night?
no one had said anything about anybody coming around.
And David Evans gave you a hug and he's gone, right?
Right.
And what do you think Eric is gonna do before you go back in your shop, back to work?
Nothing, I just figured he would, Grandma's decision, that was it. That was it. But
All right, so did you go back in your shop?
yeah,
And did you notice anybody else come into the house?
no.
How long did you stay in your shop?
Well, my shop is the downstairs.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so I got the back door right here, so if my head isn't in my box, if it's in the box and I'm looking down at my grinding, then I don't see them, but if I'm standing up, then I see people coming by. But usually, when someone comes in, if they're coming to visit, they always stop, say hi, I'm here, because,
Did you see anybody else that night?
no.
No. What time did you go to bed?
I don't know, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Again, it's been a while, so I don't know.
Did you check out to see if Eric was still there before you went to bed or not?
Yeah, he wasn't there.
What were you thinking when you saw that he wasn't in his bedroom?
Someone said that he went somewhere, went to Anchorage, or party or something.
Someone being who? I mean, using the process of elimination, Evans is gone, your mother.
It may have been Evans, and then it may have been, because later that night, and I don't know what time it was, but I know Mrs. Grunwald called asking if I've seen,
Right.
the kid. And I hadn't seen the kid, because whenever Grunwald came over, he made it a point to always stop and say hi to me. And we'd chat for a little bit before he'd go into the bedroom and see Eric. So I don't know if Evans told me or if Mrs. Grunwald told me. Somehow we've come to the conclusion that they were somewhere at a party.
All right, let's talk about the condition of the things on the outside before the 8-year place. The new garage, did it have a lock on any of the doors at that time or not?
It does, but I don't keep it locked.
And was it just an empty building at that point? Can you tell me on the 13th?
I can't really tell you.
Did it have lights in there or not?
No, it had no power hooked up. I didn't get power hooked up to it till last year.
How about the garage that's closest to the house, the old garage, I'll call it? Is that kept unlocked usually too?
Yeah, everything's usually unlocked. We don't lock anything. Our neighborhood doesn't have those kind of problems.
How about the camper trailer, the holiday vacation or camper trailer?
I keep that locked because there's no need to be in it for the winter time, and that's just why I tarp it. Tarp comes down, and I use rope and tie it on.
All right. So the door actually has a lock that you have a key?
Yeah,
to?
it has a lock and a key.
And when you stowed it away for the winter, there are no more road trips planned for that year?
There's no more road trips after the end of September.
All right. So you already mentioned you had it tarped. The tarp was secured by ropes, correct?
Right,
The door was locked, right?
right.
Had that thing been broken into before or not?
It's really easy to do.
How would you do it?
Well, there's a gap between the door and the latch, and you could just easily take a screwdriver and just push it open, but, you know, the latch inside's the.
How about the inside of the trailer? Was it tidied up when you put it away? And maybe tell us when you did all that stuff to it, when you put the tarp on it and all that.
Well, right after I get back, sometime the end of September, I don't know when that event ended, but it's always the last weekend of September.
All right. And how about the inside? Did you tidy things up in there? Tell us the condition of the inside when you put it away.
You know, it's tidy as a camper usually is. I mean, the dishes are usually put away or just, you know, like the pots that just go in the sink. I wouldn't say it's clean, but, you know, it's, yeah.
What was covering the floor when you put it away? What was on the floor when you put it away, if you remember?
I have a rug on the floor, a little runner rug or something like that run down the little hallway. And then my other son does rope work, works with commercial fishing line and turns them into rugs and coasters and trivets and bowls and wall art. And I took one of his rugs and that was at the front door.
2 rugs.
Yeah, I think so.
Was that first one a circular or oval, or was it square?
I think it's circular.
And how about the other one, rectangular? Long,
Yeah.
One of those long rectangular runners?
Yeah.
And then, you know, the seating area across from the
Sink?
from the sink and cooktop, were the cushions on that, on the seating area or not?
Yeah.
And was the table in the upright position? If
Yeah.
recall? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the camper, when you used it, where did you sleep in that camper?
In the front, there's, in the very front, there's supposed to be a table or sitting couch there or something. Probably a table, I think there's a leg under it, but it just made into a bed all the time.
Did you convert it into a bed?
No, it converts itself into a bed. You just put a real mattress on it and just leave it alone.
Did you ever use that top for sleeping, or did you just use that for storage?
The top is just used for storage. The plywood is really kind of flimsy. So I just put all my fishing poles and whatever coats and stuff like that up there.
Did you communicate to Eric, your son, and David that after you put it away, there was no more hanging around in the camper trailer.
Right, there's no more need to be in the trailer, so they don't need to, I mean, they're in the house, you don't need to be in the trailer anymore.
So in terms of other people, did you ever see Bradley Renfro come onto the property on the night of November 13th? We're still talking?
No.
No. Did you ever personally see Austin Barrett come onto the property the evening of the 13th?
No,
Did you personally see Dominic Johnson come onto the property the evening of the 13th?
no.
But you said you were scrolling through Eric's tablet, right?
Afterwards, yeah.
Did you see some communications between Dominic Johnson and Eric that Dominic was coming over with others?
You know, I didn't look through that.
Carefully?
I didn't look through the other boys at that time, because the only boy at that time I was concerned about was David Grunwald.
Okay, I got you. By the time you had looked at the tablet, you were focused on certain things, right?
Right.
Okay. So tell us how the interaction between you and the Grunwalds started. Was it on the evening of the 13th, or are we into the morning of the 14th now?
I don't know. It might have been after 11 o'clock on the 13th. I don't really know.
What happened?
And she just called and asked if I had seen David or if Eric was with David, and
Mrs. Grunwald?
yeah.
What did you, and was this a phone call, actual phone call?
Actual phone call, called the house.
And you picked up?
Yeah, because Grandma's sleeping and pisses her off when someone's calling the house that late at night.
And tell us how the conversation went.
Call for hearsay, Your Honor. I believe Ms. Grunwald's going to be a witness herself.
She already testified.
She already testified to all of this already, so she verified what she said. Now he's just kind of verifying, acknowledging
And
what he
what's the
said.
hearsay exception? It is hearsay, the statements.
No, I agree. I
Okay.
withdraw the objection.
Did you try to help her?
Boy, that's so long ago.
Well, she was asking for-
I know that, all I know is that we were concerned that they were somewhere. She said they were together. She even said she was in my driveway calling me. It didn't ever dawn on me till later, but, I just know that when she told me that, that's when I started messaging Eric saying, where are you? And then I think she called another time and she said she was getting the troopers involved. And that's when I started telling Eric in messages to him that now she's calling the troopers.
Let me ask you about the things that you knew or didn't know before Mrs. Grunwald got in touch with you. Did you know where your son was before Mrs. Grunwald called you?
I may or may not have. Like I said, I can't remember if David told me that he had gone to a party, and it might have been that she just confirmed that or something. It's been so long, I can't really remember.
But you
But I
didn't-
know that he was somewhere.
Let me ask a more particular question. Did you know exactly where Eric was when Mrs. Grunwald called you? The exact location?
Not an exact location, no.
But you did know he wasn't at your house?
Right.
Okay. How about David Grunwald? Did you have any idea where he was when Mrs. Grunwald called you?
No, because he'd never been at the house.
Now, something I have to ask you about is Mr. Pratt's statements, okay? You're aware of that, of the difference there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Pratt testified that he overheard you that evening talking to two individuals who appeared to be young men, saying you're gonna have to explain to the boy's mother or talk to the boy's mother or words to that effect. And he was very adamant or sure of himself that he heard you say those words. Did you say any such words before Mrs. Grunwald? Did you say any of those words to two young men at your house, outside on your property before Mrs. Grunwald contacted you?
Well, you really got that one good, didn't you?
No, I don't know. I don't know what you mean by
Now,
that.
you're wanting to know if it was the night of the 13th, so that's what you wanted to know for.
I'm affording you an opportunity to explain whether you had made that statement to two young men before Mrs. Grunwald contacted you at your place on the 13th?
Okay, on the 13th,
Right,
no.
okay. So you believe Mr. Pratt is mistaken?
Yes.
Okay, did you?
For that night, yes.
I'm sorry?
For that night, yes.
You're saying you made a similar statement some other night?
Yeah.
What night would that have been?
Oh, boy, that was, if you look on the records, court records under David Evans, you will see when he had a minor in consumption, charge, gotten a ticket for that. That was the day, they were supposed to go to school that day, which was like, I can't even say when that was.
Before the-
But it was way before this, okay?
And put this in a context, what did you say and who did you say it to and where were you standing?
They were supposed to go to school that morning. I did not know at that time, until after our big giant blow up that whole day, that those two had gotten up in the middle of the night when I was sleeping, went and were drinking somewhere with some people. I don't know who or where. I just know that they said that. They could come back. They had come back like about an hour before my alarm went off to get them up for school. And I had spent over an hour trying to get them up. And then we had a big blowout, and I told them that's when David Evans ran out of the house and ran up into the trailer. And I'm like, how did he get in the trailer? The key's still on the wall. And I go in there and get him out. And that's when I told Eric, you need to call that boy's mother so he could come pick him up.
And that was during the morning hours?
Yes, it was.
Right, so somehow we're just, that'll just have to be figured out, I guess. Okay, it wasn't during the evening hours, was it?
Nope, because it was getting light out.
So I guess what I'm getting at is, did you ever have conversations with Eric or anybody else that we've mentioned, or Dominic Johnson, or Austin Barrett, or Bradley Renfro on that evening that they're gonna have to call David Grunwald's mother?
Never talked to him, any of the boys on that night. I've never seen Dominic, I've never seen Brad, and I never saw Austin on the 13th.
After you spoke with Mr. Grunwald, did you go around your property to see if anything was weird on your property or not?
I don't really remember, but I don't know if I did or not. I may have gone and just to look to see if maybe someone, if they were in the trailer. You know, just took the flashlight, opened the door and look in.
You may have, though, you don't
I may
know?
have, but I don't remember. But, I mean, I had no barking dogs. I had no reason to go looking for anything because dogs didn't tell me there was anything weird outside.
All right, and at this point, despite your hearing loss, you're out of your shop, there's no grinding going on, so you would have heard some barking later in the evening, right?
Well, my dogs are right next to me, so they would have barked right next to me.
Okay, but we
The
do,
back door is right here behind me, and they would have been at the door barking, and then one of them would have come over and pawed me barking to say, hey, come on. I never had such a thing happen. Because where I'm at and the back door is, the trailer, and that is way up here. So, I would never hear anything.
okay, I'm getting to a couple of lengthier exhibits here, let me just verify the numbers on my list here. These are the exhibits. I made copies for Mr. Provost a few days ago, so, and I think he had a chance to go over with this client a few.
Which numbers are they?
These are gonna be 169 and 204.
Okay, 169, and which one?
204 is the PowerPoint essentially.
204, which we don't have listed.
Right,
So, what's it called, Mr. Kalichuk?
well, it's called Allmendinger and Rodney Excel. That's what the face sheet is on the exhibit.
Okay,
But essentially, it's the same, contains the same screenshots as is contained in 169, but it has the same, some of the same messages, most of the same messages from Eric Allmendinger's Facebook, and they appear in bigger font and in such a way that the jury would be able to read those on the screen.
and these are between Rodney and Eric only?
Correct.
And for the record, what are the dates or the times? I don't have it in front of me.
Right,
so-
the 169, well, that starts right after Mrs. Grunwald
Okay.
contacted Mr. Allmendinger. And then on the screenshots, well, Mr. Provost has that exhibit, but I believe it ends on November 17th. The Facebook records go from, same thing, November 13th, when Mr. Allmendinger starts messaging his son, but those records go through November 26th of 2016.
So any objection at this point, Mr. Provost, for that exhibit?
Is that the same number? I did have, I just gave you a copy without the exhibit sticker.
No objection.
Okay, so 169 is admitted, and that is linked to 204, which is the PowerPoint. That is admitted. Yes.
These, let me just, the ones we just submitted, 169, contains a series of screenshots. You said you were messaging with, or attempting, and then actually messaging with your son Eric, starting November 13th.
Right after she called, yeah.
All right. And then also, I don't know if you remember us using this before, but the same screenshots are in the back of exhibit 204, but the first part is a easier to read format, and that came from the Facebook records, right?
Right.
Okay. And you're familiar, you've seen these things before?
Yeah.
Okay.
In a nutshell, I'm just trying to find out where he's at, where the two boys are at, the concerns that she has,
Okay.
and letting him know that troopers are being called, where the hell is he,
All right.
you know, things like that. And then I don't hear from him until whatever time it is, it's telling me.
Okay.
And him saying that he's not here, he's not with me, I haven't seen him.
All right, because these exhibits have been admitted already, what I want to do is just quickly go through them. I'm not going to focus on every line. I think I had.
Yeah, I don't wanna read them
Right.
again.
So I don't want to do that because the jury will be able to read these things, but I just want to hit the highlights with you. I'm going to put it on the computer, ask you to stand up here, pull the microphone up, use the yardstick that we have with all the witnesses that have shown things on the screen, and just go through some of the highlights of those, okay? But going fairly quickly. So if you can, I'll start my part, if you can start your part. All right, this is page 1 of 37. Again, we're not going to go through each and every line, but tell us what's depicted on page 1 of 37, and maybe just, do some pointing if you're, but you got to grab that microphone out of the stand because it's essential that you speak into the microphone. Now here, I believe the black writing is you, the red writing would be any responses from your son Eric, okay? So tell us just, and again, I'm asking you for the nutshell, what's going on in this first page of communications?
Well, as you can see, I didn't know he'd left, and then I'm asking him, when you coming home? And then that's why I'm telling him that Mr. Grunwald got a hold of me, and you can see I just done nothing but copy and paste over and over
All right. You're trying to get a hold of your son Eric, right?
to find out where David is, yeah.
Exactly. And then page 2 of 37.
Oh,
For
I'm
the
sorry.
reference.
It's, when she called me back, she was considering calling and then called me back, and that she did, or, oh, that must be on another page, but,
You're explaining to him that David's parents are looking for
Right.
David.
because, that they're trying to find information of where he's at, and they're going off with what they were last heard, was that he was coming over here.
And these are still all your texts, all your messages, right?
Yeah,
Now you're getting a little bit more agitated here, is that right?
oh, yeah,
And you try to call him, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes you can do that Facebook calling thing, and I don't do that, but this was important, so.
Slide 5. Are these continued efforts by you?
Yep.
Now, why did you say now you're both effed? What did that mean?
Well, like it says, his parents have called the troopers and the police so that they're looking for him. So, in other words, quit avoiding me and tell me where you guys are at.
Now, are you presuming that your son is with David Grunwald? Is that your presumption? I'm trying to figure out what's going on in your
Right,
mind.
that's my presumption because, like I said, Mr. Grunwald said that they were supposed to be together because he was coming over, so I'm assuming they were together.
Thank you. Okay. Now, he finally gets back to you, correct?
Yep,
And it's already the 14th now, right?
yep.
And did he tell you where he was?
He didn't really say where he was. Just says I'm with some friends, I won't be home tonight, which really set me off, but I don't know where he's at, so I couldn't go get him myself, and then,
No, and when you say and he is effed wherever he is, did you mean that, did you presume that David Grunwald was alive and well and he would get in trouble with his parents? Is that where you're coming from when you say
right,
those things?
that's where I'm coming from, yes.
I mean, the other question, or did you presume that he was hurt or dead?
No, that they were together, running around, doing whatever they were doing, and the police were coming to find them.
All right, you did ask whether whether he was with David at the end there, right?
Yeah, well, in all the other text messages,
Yep.
it's basically saying that.
Let's go to number 7. You get a further response from your son, correct? What did he say in that?
That was where he's in Anchorage. That's an hour drive. I wasn't gonna drive there. He got there, he can get his ass back.
Now, when he say didn't even know that other David was there, he's referring to David Grunwald, right?
Right,
So obviously he knew David Evans was there because they were together at your house, so he was referring to the person you're inquiring about, right?
right.
David Grunwald. All right. The next screen, you get more of a response. Now it's what, 7:28 in the morning on the 14th. What did your son message you?
Just saying that he never saw David that day or night and doesn't know anything about it.
All right. When he says, "I never saw the effing kid in a week or two," right?
Right.
Okay.
Which I saw on his Facebook between him and David Grunwald. That was about the time frame that they had last messaged each other on Facebook.
Now, is that the language we see him using, is that just the way he usually talked during that time period?
No,
No?
no.
So why is he talking like that to you?
I'm just figuring that he's just mad because everybody keeps bothering him, and he kept saying before, if you notice on the page before, that he wasn't with them and he hadn't seen him.
And he said in one of those things that he thought David was probably effing fine, right? He didn't know.
Yeah, right there.
Slide 9. You, now this is already.
This is when I had gone and looked at the trailer, and that's when it was untied.
Now, from this, it sounds like you're presuming that he's hiding in the trailer,
Yeah,
and you're messaging him from home,
yeah,
but he's saying he's not, right?
right.
What's TBH mean down there,
I don't know.
to be honest?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's go to slide 10. Anything about there gives you any further indication of where your son Eric is when you're communicating in this slide or not?
Now, say that again?
Yeah, from the statements he made, do you know where he's at during this time period when you're communicating with him?
I'm assuming, because he said he was getting a ride to school, that he would be at school. That's why I said, I'm glad you made it to school, because I was actually checking to see if he made it to school, but the school hadn't called yet, so I'm assuming he had been at school.
But then you go back into asking him whether he saw David Grunwald, right?
Right,
Then what did you started asking about whether David's possibly at a trap house or something?
right,
And that's the places where some of them used to hang out?
right. At that time, I didn't know what a trap house was. They just told me that they were at a trap house. It wasn't until after all this I looked up what trap house means.
All right. Then you tell them about some recent developments. Now we're into the 15th, correct? What did you advise Erica?
That they had found David Bronco, he was burned, and I'm telling him, and this is where he's showing concern.
Does this mean that your son Eric did not come to school or home on the 14th? Since
Well,
you're
this is still in the morning, so I'm assuming he was at school. To the school, I don't remember if they had called me by this time or not.
Well, I mean, are you assuming you just didn't intersect on the 14th? And then you're still continuing just a message with
No,
him?
no, he came home on the 14th, but, I mean, this is,
What,
oh, I see, we're on a different date. I thought we were on the 14th.
yeah, what do you, how did,
So this is talking to him when he's at school.
so what did he do on the 14th when he came home? Was he alone or with somebody else?
Dominic, I think, showed up with him.
What were they doing?
Eric took a shower, changed clothes, and then that
Was that morning or afternoon or evening?
afternoon, I don't really remember, I think so.
So Eric showered and changed clothes? How
Yeah,
about Johnson? What did he do?
he just sat there, waited for Eric to get out of the shower.
Did you talk to Johnson at all?
Not really, no.
Did you talk to your son Eric at all about his absence on the 13th? And did you have further discussions in person versus just?
I didn't do it in front of another person. That was a conversation we were going to have after he came home alone.
So you're saying this series we're looking at here in slide 12, you believe your son was at school and you're messaging him about
Yeah,
developments?
this is on the 15th. I know he was at school because I took him to school, I think.
And he expressed what, surprise that David's Bronco was found burned, right?
Right.
And again, his statements are in red, correct?
Huh?
His statements are in red.
You're right.
When he said that's my nig, is he referring to David Grunwald?
Yeah.
Going to 14 now. Now, on the bottom, and this, now we're getting into some dates beyond that week, the 11/19. He talks about some of the people that we were discussing here today. Which people is he talking about having people come over for the night?
This is Dominic, and Austin was going by the name of Andrew at this time, so.
Okay, so he has.
I think might have been when I was down at my event down in Seward.
In November?
Oh, no?
That's November, that's like, Saturday after the Sunday.
I had an event that weekend. That might have been, we'd have to look back, if that's a Black Friday weekend. I was in Kenai that weekend.
All right, but he's asking permission for Dominic Johnson and Austin Barrett to spend the night, right?
Right.
Let's see what you say about that, slide 15. Or did you say yay or nay?
I said no.
Okay, again, I'm gonna skip over some of the parts. Slide 16. So now that sounds like you are in the area and you're gonna hook up with Eric.
Right.
So maybe
The
you
show-
weren't- maybe you
show-
weren't at Seward,
No, this would be in Kenai if this was Black Friday weekend.
but Eric was with you?
No. The show ends like at 4 or 5.
Oh,
Takes me an hour to break down, and from the Kenai High School, it takes me about 3.5 hours to get home.
right. I'm gonna skip over some of the stuff we're not too concerned about. Slide 17. Skip over that. Slide 18. Let the jury look at that. So November 22nd, you're communicating with Eric again, and he's expressing what's frustration that cops are hounding him.
Yeah, I think they've been questioning it.
They were, been at your house a number of times, right? Okay. From what you remember, right?
Like he lived there for a while.
Tony?
Yeah.
And slide 20, again, he's saying he doesn't want to talk to the police anymore, right?
Yeah.
Let me just, slide 21, this goes to, like, did he continue to associate, on November 22nd, he mentions Andrew again, is that correct? And wants you to give a ride to Andrew?
Down at the
Bottom
bottom.
of the page.
Yeah.
Did you actually give him a ride or not?
I don't remember. Probably that they were saying I was close, so probably.
And then the 22nd, when he says, can Andrew come too, he goes to Pathways. Where are you guys going to? Where he's asking, can Andrew come along?
Oh, I don't know.
Did you let Andrew stay the night on the 22nd as Eric requested or not?
Well, I said no.
Now let's go to the next slide, 23. He keeps asking.
And then I said yes.
Okay. So that was on the 26th, after Thanksgiving, that Andrew, Austin Barrett stayed the night?
Okay, so then the one on the 19th was the event I was at in Anchorage at the Denina Center. If this is Thanksgiving weekend,
Yep.
the 26th, that's Black Friday weekend, I'm down in Kenai.
But you're bringing pizza home, right? The
Yeah.
night that Austin Barrett is staying at your house?
Yeah, because mom had her out of the box event at the Palmer Train Depot.
Okay.
The
Now-
Derek was helping her with that.
All right, now just going through these quickly, this is 25, and 25 through 37, those are just the same messages that we have on Exhibit 179, right?
Yeah.
Between you and Eric, and they are contained, the content of those messages is contained in what we just went, in what you and I just went over, is that correct?
Yep.
All right, have a seat, please. And your son was arrested on December 2nd, the Friday, right?
I guess.
And did he continue to reside in your house until he was arrested?
Yes.
But during that time frame, between the 13th and the 2nd, you said you had frequent visits from the Alaska State Troopers, correct?
Yeah.
This gentleman here sitting next to me,
Yeah, he's on my Christmas card list.
all right, and other gentlemen also, correct?
Yeah.
And were some of the visits to interview you and Eric?
Some guy named Patrick. I don't remember who he was with.
All right. And I'm not gonna ask you all the guys, but some of them were search warrant executions, and other times they were there to speak with either you or Eric, or both of you, is that correct?
Yeah.
And just as you sit here, you didn't see any bad thing happen on your property on the evening of the 13th, did you?
No.
And you would tell us if you had, correct?
I would be the one sitting there if I had. If I had seen what they were, doing what they were doing, they would be the ones.
Prosecuting you?
Oh yeah, I'd have taken all of them out. Well, and beat them up anyway. Are you gonna get in trouble for that?
Did you, when you went back in your did you ever go back to your trailer later in the week or later in the month?
Of November,
Yeah.
when they were all searching for
Yeah.
him, a couple times, yeah.
Did you notice some things were missing from your trailer?
I did not even, all I did was walk in, took the flashlight, and walked in because I have a pile of blankets and sleeping bags on the one bed because September Stewart is cold. And so I'm just going, well, look and see if maybe a kid is hiding in there, you know, maybe they're hiding David for some reason or other. I would.
What
but
was that you did that, do you think?
I have no idea.
Wait, the 13th or the 14th?
No, it was, I don't know when that was.
Okay. And so you didn't put the light on or anything like that?
No, I just had a flashlight and just pulled the blanket, didn't see a kid, put it back and walked out the door.
Was that just kind of what, a long shot to see?
It was just a long shot, yeah.
But when you put the trailer away, you're certain there were 2 rugs on the floor, right?
Yeah,
Did you smell any cleaning solutions when you went to look for the blankets?
I wasn't in there long enough to even pay attention.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's take our afternoon break. We'll come back for cross-examination.
Emoji of a pistol.
I think I do.
They have since, with these mass shootings we've been having, removed any kind of weapon of type of emoji.
Oh, I never noticed.
And the gaming group on Facebook, are you a gamer yourself, a little bit?
A little bit.
Is that like one of those groups you join just, you know, for hobby type stuff?
The gamer group that I joined is basically just to keep up on the new games that are coming out. Sometimes people give helpful hints on certain games in certain levels for a certain whatever.
Right.
Like if someone has been through it and they've missed something in a particular place, they can't find it, they've been through here and someone comes on and says, this is where you go look for it.
Have you come across in these groups, even if you don't particularly use those games, gaming involving battle zones, I mean, you name it, there's going to be one of those games out there depicting realistic looking, you know, combat and other types of violence.
Like Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, things like that, yeah.
And for that group of people, those that love doing gaming, and you're aware a lot of it's online too, right?
Right.
You know, they're live gaming with each other from long distance. Sometimes betting money on win or lose type of, are you aware of that?
No, that's new.
Fair to say you never saw Bradley with a handgun or posing with a handgun?
I've never seen
Some of
it.
these, like that photo there.
No.
And except for one or two of the mini exhibits of the boys doing this posing stuff, posing like gangsters. There's one or two with Bradley's kind of down there in the middle throwing a C sign. Do you ever see him, you know, was that his MO otherwise? Did you ever see him flashing a C sign to his buddies, you know, outside of these photos?
I've never seen anybody of them do it to each other outside of the photos.
nor discuss the gang lifestyle?
No. When I look at the pictures, I only think of one thing. Back when I grew up, we called them posers. Is it that people pretending to be something that they're not?
And so that's nothing new with human nature.
No.
But now with the internet and smartphones with cameras, especially young people, but a lot of adults, if you go down your news stream or you see a lot of posing going on, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to jump around a little bit, but the morning after David disappeared and was murdered, had been murdered that night, you discovered later. You testified that sometime on the 14th of November 2016, Eric showed up with Dominic and showered.
Right.
You ever see Bradley coming around after that, like that?
No, I don't think I seen him at all until the night of December 22nd, and I didn't even know he was even in the house at that time.
The 22nd of which month?
Of December. I mean, the 2nd of December, sorry.
2nd of December.
Right.
And that's when you heard that he had been at the house? Or did you see him?
I actually saw him.
And did you talk to him?
Kind of. I mean, I knew Austin, well, it was Andrew at the time,
Yeah.
was at the house. I didn't know Brad was there, as I had come down, and that was when Eric was being arrested, and of course,
Right.
you know, pissed off, and I come down to open the door and to tell Austin to get out, and that's when I saw Brad there, and that's when I said, you guys need to leave.
Yeah. So that was the day that Eric did?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we just, before stayed rested with your direct examination, saw at least a couple of dozen slides, right?
Right.
Of communications and texts and whatnot. In those slides, those messages between back and forth, you recall that Eric had mentioned the names Dominic and Austin, right?
Right.
In all of that messaging you did for those couple of days or more, right up to 17th, I think is what you were shown. Isn't it true that Bradley Renfro's name never appeared in those communications?
I'd have to look through them all, but I don't think so.
Well, if you want to be clear about it, you could probably take a minute and flip through them and see if you see the name Bradley or Renfro even once in all of those slides.
Okay?
Then you'll be sure.
Right.
Can I do that, Your Honor?
You may, go right ahead.
I'll be quick. I can speed read.
And they're numbered and ordered as they were called out.
Okay.
By Mr. Kalchek. And as it's State had pointed out, the second batch were duplicates, just harder to see on screenshots, so there they are.
I was hoping you'd give me these ones. Okay,
Okay. You see Bradley Renfro's name anywhere?
no,
And you did testify and talk about how, a lot of kids would come over. That David Evans had permission to stay for a while. But, is it accurate that, one, Eric never asked you if Bradley Renfro could stay over?
no, I've never asked if Brad could stay over.
But he has for Austin Barrett and back before you banned Devon Peterson and Dominic Johnson.
Right,
So does it seem fair to say to you now that all of this has passed, that Eric's closest friends, longer-term friends were Devon Peterson, Austin Barrett, and Dominic Johnson?
I guess you could say that.
What, I mean,
Yeah.
If you don't agree, or
What, no, I mean,
if you can't say, that's fine.
I can't really say because I know I've seen when I've gone to pick up Eric, Bradley was standing there as well with everybody, so.
Yeah,
I-
I mean at your house.
Well, even over, picking him up from playing basketball over at Alyssa's house, if they were walking down the road, they were all together.
Right.
Yeah.
Spend a lot of time together in other places.
Right, that's where I would assume they were, all friends.
But of that group, Is your impression that he was the last one to become associated with them?
Sure, I would go with that.
And maybe you don't recall because Bradley's grown up a lot in the last 3 years, but if you do recall, you recall him as also being the smallest, the shortest, the youngest of the group?
I don't know if I recall that,
Okay.
them saying,
Yeah, that's a while ago.
yeah, I mean, I can rightfully say that he wasn't talked about as much as the others.
All right, that's all I have, thank you.
Redirect?
Wasn't Eric smaller than Bradley?
No,
Eric was pretty small,
no, he was smaller.
right? How tall was Eric?
I don't know, but, I mean, I know when they stood next to each other in the house, he was just like he was, I mean, still taller than my other son, who's short, but,
Going to Mr. Provost's questions by extent of continued associations, you said Bradley was at your house after the murder on December 2nd when Eric was arrested, correct?
right,
And Austin Barrett was at your house on December 2nd when your son was arrested, correct?
right,
So they continued to associate after the murder, correct?
correct,
Like nobody was holding Bradley Renfro hostage at your house, correct?
no,
Right?
right.
He wasn't
There-
handcuffed?
Sitting there casually on the bed when I walked in.
Exactly. And as far as Eric not asking you to have Bradley sleep over, didn't you ban Bradley for a while from your house too?
Yeah,
Could that possibly be a reason why Eric did not ask for Bradley to be a sleepover guest?
yeah,
All right. Now, also, as far as continued associations past the murder, didn't you see photos of all of them at Clara's birthday party?
boy, that was a long time ago. I don't know if Brad was in it.
Well, would it help to refresh your recollection if I were to show your grand jury?
Yeah, I remember Dominic being in it.
Right, this is page 191 of the grand jury testimony in December of 2016.
Wow, I forgot about little Clara.
Right, do you remember what day Clara's party was?
I want to say a Wednesday maybe, it was the midweek, I think. You'd have to ask Tony, because I think that was the first warrant search, I think.
Right, but we all agree it was after the murder, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see, I'm gonna have you read page one, I have it all highlighted, underlined, page 191, where you start talking about the party, and then who was there, and then from the photos you saw, and then also into page 192 where you reiterate who was there. So just read that for yourself, so it helps refresh your recollection. And I see you're reading the second page first, which is fine.
Okay,
Okay, and then let's go to the first page where the testimony started about the party, when the party was in relation to the investigation, who was at the party. Read that to yourself.
Clara, oh, see, I even have it right, Wednesday.
Right. Does that help refresh your memory?
We would be. Okay,
Okay, so does that help refresh your memory? Because Mr. Provost asked you, what did you see, what did you didn't see, that Bradley.
Objection, Your Honor. Can we approach?
You may.
Does that help refresh your recollection as to research you did and photos you saw?
I don't know if I researched that, but I remember seeing the picture. So I don't know if it was from Eric showing it to me.
Right. Well, you
Or-
saw photos of the group at a birthday party while the murder investigation was going on, right?
Right,
And was the defendant there at the birthday party?
yeah,
Was he in handcuffs or was he tied up or anything like that?
no.
Who else was at the birthday party?
Devon and Dominic, and I know Austin was, I remembered this clearly, that Clara deleted the picture with Austin, and I don't remember why, but somebody was stating in the comments that, we know Austin was there, you deleted it, why did you delete it? And then Clara didn't answer.
But regarding Renfro being at your house on December 2nd when your son's being arrested, I take it you didn't get a heads up about him showing up at your house, right?
No,
How about Austin Barrett? Did you get a heads up about him being with Bradley Renfro and showing up at your house?
I think I knew Austin was coming over, because I think Austin was coming over, and then they were going over to go play basketball. That's what I was being told. But I didn't know that Bradley was coming over.
Now, as to the questions about whether you saw anybody doing any gang stuff in person, whether you saw that in person, you testified, correct me if I'm wrong, you never even saw these photos before the murder investigation.
Right,
Right,
so I don't know what a gang sign is.
right. And as far as the questions about who you thought was aggressive, who you didn't think was aggressive, you didn't think any of these guys was aggressive, right?
Right,
I guess you didn't like Devon very much.
no,
Okay.
there's a reason for that one, but
Yeah, but you didn't think any of them was aggressive, right?
no.
Now, on the gang stuff, there was some opinion testimony elicited during cross-examining the gang stuff, and you just kind of brush it all off as child's play, right?
Right,
You don't think that when people start acting like like gangsters, they're gonna start getting down a slippery slope where they start, well, this was,
Prosecution, it's his witness, this is still, this is redirect. He doesn't get to
Well-
take the
Okay,
cross-examination role.
respond to that, the redirect. Does this go beyond the scope of the direct
the
examination?
opinion was, Mr. Provost asked Mr. Allmendinger, what do you think about this gang stuff? Mr. Allmendinger says everybody does it. It was talking about Sarah Palin. I'll stipulate she's not a gang member, but I'm just following up on that. And it's not really that important because I don't
Okay,
think.
well,
people's-
just make it limited. okay?
I'll just withdraw that because I really don't think people's opinions are that relevant to the jury's decisions. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Okay, you can step down, sir. You are excused.
thank you.
So who do you have next, Mr. Kalachuk?
Well, I have three witnesses in the wings. I'm trying to at least get one done.
Okay, you have,
But I think there's one
Let's
thing
see.
that did we do any adjustment to court as it applies to all three of the witnesses?
Okay, so do we excuse the jury for a few minutes? We'll talk about something, go ahead and step on back, and we'll call you in in probably just a couple minutes. Okay, so is this Misty Johnson and Mr. LaRue you're talking
I
about?
have Andrea Collins too, and I guess if we have a 1:30 deadline, I'd probably try to get Ms. Cullington and Mr. LaRue out of here.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, all of them touch upon that video where Dominic Johnson is saying things in the shed while Austin Barrett and Bradley Renfro.
As far as Mr. LaRue, how does he
He
play into
overheard,
that?
he overheard the video. So, all of them touch upon it. It happened that day.
In Collington, it came off of her phone,
It
right?
did.
But the foundation for where it occurred and so forth comes through, as I recall, and even in your motion work, Ms. Bledsoe, she really describes the foundation for that video.
She does.
So that's my concern is about playing it to the jury without hearing from Ms. Bledsoe first. I don't mind hearing from Ms. Collington identifying the video.
How is she gonna really do that? I guess-
Well, I guess you guys can stick to it was found on her phone. Are there other questions you want to ask her?
How it was found, what it was doing on her phone. She showed it to Misty Johnson, so she has a little more involvement.
See, that, I wish we could hear from, honestly, from Ms. Bledsoe
it's
first,
gonna
because
be-
she's the core of your,
It's gonna be the same.
your foundational
It's gonna
stuff.
be the same testimony that it was in her shed. She doesn't know who took it, but it's Dominic Johnson. And in a statement, Renfro admits being at the shed before and after the murder.
That's in his statement.
In his own statement.
You,
admits-
now, let me ask you this. He admits being in the shed or at her house or what? What is the exact admission? Because I have not read that
Yeah, I
yet, so.
believe it's both in the shed and, well, they're never in the house, so it's in the shed before and after the murder. So, we believe that there's a hand next to Dominic Johnson, has a coat similar to the coat Renfro was wearing in a photo. The text messages between Johnson and Allmendinger refer to Bradley Renfro coming over to Eric Allmendinger's, that Bradley's with them, so it all matches, it all lines up.
And and the defense's opposition is stated in your briefing, right? Is that, I mean, I've read that, so is there anything you want to
Correct.
emphasize?
Well, what I want to emphasize are a couple of things, and this is still relatively new stuff, the way electronic photos, in this case videos, get passed around in trying to get to the very bottom of, as you say, laying a foundation. When I think about how it used to be, how hard, all the hoops you had to jump through 20 years ago to get something like that into evidence, and now, is it the original? Who took it? Has it been altered at all? We know that this stuff, all of those are open questions. But we'll see where law goes with this in the future. Is this going to just be, we're all going to ignore that, and because we just can't tell anymore, what the fake news is versus the real news? I don't know. But the reason why I first, that video, of course, is very relevant to Dominic Johnson and his trial. And there's compelling reasons to get it into evidence. But there was also testimony by one of the state's professional witnesses, Trooper where there was, in response to a question from Mr. Kalichek, it's quoted in the briefing. Oh, yeah, absolutely, that's Bradley Renfro's voice.
And Alyssa Bledsoe said it was not,
Well,
She said it was not.
She said he was there.
but not his voice. Isn't that what she said?
That's exactly what she said. And as you know, we have.
Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grant your motion at this point in time partially, okay? The video comes in for Dominic Johnson, and it comes in under 803, clearly 803.3, basically as him, as a statement of his mindset as the principal in the assault. I think that's pretty darn clear. I don't think you can really oppose that. It's a clear statement by him. That's him. He's identified both visually and by his voice. I'm going to let it come in at this point for that. That way we can hear from Ms. Collington, and then you can hear from Mr. LaRue. But any commentary and whose voices are there in the back, I'm going to hear from Ms. Bledsoe first. And that's going to be before I hear from the officer. Then I'll make a determination on. And I also need to hear what Mr. Renfro says himself, because that's collaboration. And if he is saying, I was in the shed when that statement was made in his interview, then,
Well,
you know, then we, but whether or not that's his voice making the assertion, adding to it or not, I'm really unsure of that, because we have conflicting testimony and whose voice it was, including by the person who was actually there.
Yeah,
So-
collaboration of his presence. This is the common theme.
So
his
that I'm gonna
presence.
hold off
Oh, the
on.
presence is gonna be sewed up, Judge.
Well,
Ms. Bledsoe-
but I'm gonna let you make the statement
Right.
regarding Mr. Johnson as the principal, Mr. Kalichek. That's your primary reason you're wanting to get it in, is that was part of your
Especially
motion work.
as to the pistol.
As to the assault, I agree with that. And I'm gonna let it in for that purpose at this point. So I don't want any questions on trying to identify the voice or anything from Mr. LaRue or Mr. Collington, Ms. Collington. You can get the video in, you can play it, you can ask regarding Dominic Johnson, and when she heard it, same with Ms. Collington, but they don't have any information on who those other voices are. They were not there, okay?
Right, and I wasn't planning on, of course, Mr. LaRue can identify Dominic Johnson's voice.
That's fine, that's fine. So understand that, Mr. Provost?
Yes.
And-
That's all I'm gonna leave for today, so you can get it in. I was gonna let it in for that purpose, but the other stuff about the officer saying, well, maybe that's his voice.
No.
Ms. Bledsoe saying, well, maybe that's not his voice. That gets into an area I'm really unsure of at
Right,
this time.
and their
so-
experts said, you know, if there was two males that were speaking in addition to Johnson, which coincides with the state's evidence that it was Bradley.
And the jury can hear the voices, and
Right.
they know who was probably present. Let them determine that factual
So,
basis.
and Judge, just so, we might elect, just not to play it today, simply because we're at the 1 o'clock hour. I really would like to get Ms. Collington, she is short. I would like to
Get her foundation based.
And I would like to
That's
get
the-
Mr. LaRue done because he is very short.
Okay,
Unless he starts going.
I have no objection with that, so we'll bring the jury in, and you can, but for that limited purpose, Ms. Collington, so.
And, I mean, it would help if we, like, usually I would show her, but it would help if the defense acknowledged that the video that I just played during the break, which goes in this sleeve, is the video that we're talking about.
Oh, of course.
Okay, that would help.
Yeah, we can do the jury now. And just so I'm clear for the record, I wrote it down why the reasoning I had for the admission of Dominic Johnson's statement. It's basically the statement of a present state of mind or motion offered to provide a state of mind or motion of a declarant that is at issue in this case. Obviously, his state of mind is at issue in this case, and it is one of the primary issues regarding the assault charge. So,
And then just the secondary reason the state would argue later, I'll mention that later.
Okay, please be seated, everybody. We can call the next witness. Mr. Johnson.
Well, one witness is in the bathroom and the other one, well, obviously we're in here, we can't keep track of the comings and goings of the witnesses, but whoever's out there, either Mr. LaRue or Ms. Cullington will be capable of taking either one next. Sergeant Legson's gonna bring up first one who shows up. Andrew Cullington will be our next one.
Okay. Come on up, ma'am, and have a seat. Mr. Kowalczyk, can you approach? Also, Mr. Cook. Okay, ma'am, you can rise. Raise your hand when you be sworn in, okay?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in the case now before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. And for the record, would you please state your full name and spell first and last?
Andrea Cullington, AndreaCullington.
Thank you. And could you just move a little closer to the mic? Thank you very much.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon. First of all, can you tell us how old you are?
I'm 19.
What part of the state do you live in, general area?
I live in Wasilla, Alaska.
How long have you lived there?
About half my life. I've been back and forth between Anchorage and Wasilla.
Let me turn your attention back to 2016, end of 2016. Did you know an Alyssa Bledsoe back then?
I didn't know her very personally, no.
Did you know her through what, social media?
Yes, I had her on social media.
Was she a friend of a friend, or give me a little bit of explanation on that?
I knew her as Bradley's girlfriend.
And did you know the defendant in this case, Bradley Renfro?
Yes, I knew Bradley.
From just the area?
He was one of my friends.
Okay. And did you receive a video from Alyssa Bledsoe?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was it a short video?
Yes, it was short.
And was the main person on the video Dominic Johnson?
Yes, it was.
Did you know Dominic Johnson also?
Yes, I did.
And how did you know Dominic Johnson?
He was one of my friends.
How did you receive the video on your phone?
Through Snapchat.
You were on Snapchat and Alyssa was on Snapchat?
I had Alyssa on Snapchat,
Yeah.
and she had sent me the video on Snapchat.
Did you look at the video?
Yes, I did.
What was the video?
It was a video of Dominic saying something. I don't know, I can't remember exactly what words he had said, but I believe we've all seen the video.
Oh, you mean you're referring to me and Sergeant Wexon when you say we have all seen the video?
I assume that the jury's
Not
seen
yet,
it.
but okay. But it's Dominic Johnson doing the talking, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember whether there were any other
Objection?
Do
Yeah.
you remember whether there were any other faces? That's a question.
Faces, not
Right.
voices.
Right. If I could finish my question, I'd
Yeah.
appreciate it. Do you remember whether there were any other faces on the video?
No, not that I could recall.
Were you familiar with the location of the video, the background?
Nope.
Now, when you got it, you looked at it, did you keep the video on your phone?
No, I didn't. Alyssa had saved it on her Snapchat, and so due to her saving it, I couldn't unsave it on mine.
All right, okay. Now, do you know Misty Johnson or Mystique Johnson?
Yes, I know her.
And who is she?
Dominic's mother.
Did you go to her house and show Mystique Johnson the videotape?
Yes, I did show Missy Johnson the video.
Okay, do you remember what day that was?
No, I do not.
Is it fair to say it was at the tail end of 2016?
Yes.
All right. And why did you go to her house to show her the video?
I didn't go to her house to show her the video. It had just came up while I was at her house, and I had showed it to her. I don't remember the exact circumstances in which I had showed her the video or why or what had led up to me going to show her the video, or I do believe that I was swiping through photos and it had popped up.
And then did you click the play?
I believe it played automatically.
So she saw it, right?
Yes, that's a repetitive question.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I ask repetitive questions
I'm
in this
just saying.
process, yeah. But I am the one who gets to ask the questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, I will. What was her reaction when you showed it to her?
I don't recall.
You don't remember at all?
I do not recall. I don't remember her reaction.
Did you make any statements when you showed her the video?
I don't remember.
Is there a particular reason why you don't remember?
Possibly because it was about 2 years ago and I don't think of every single word that I say of every second throughout my life.
Eventually, Sergeant Wegson had contact with you about the videotape. Is that correct?
Are you talking about this man
Correct.
sitting next to you?
Right.
Yes, at the same time that you were there, so.
Okay. And I can't testify in this trial. You're the one that's testifying. so-
I know, I'm saying you were there as well, so yes.
Right, I remember. And was that at the Palmer Courthouse?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And you still have the video on the phone, correct?
Repeat that?
You still have the video on your phone?
Had?
Yes.
Yes.
And Sergeant Was Sergeant Wigson able to view the video on your phone at the Palmer Courthouse?
No, he wasn't.
No?
No,
How did he view it?
off of his phone.
His phone? And describe the mechanism of how it got to his phone. What came
He
from
logged
your-
in on my Snapchat on his phone.
Okay. And then he was able to see the video, is that right?
That's correct.
And obviously, you didn't have anything to do with the goings-on on November 13th, 2016, relating to the murder of David Grunwald?
No, I did not.
All right, thank you.
Any cross-examination?
I think I just have one question for you, Ms. Covington. As I review that bit of discovery, the phone that you had at the time you were sitting next to Miss Johnson, you no longer had, you didn't even have that phone anymore, is that correct?
No, I did not.
And when Trooper Wegson got into your Snap account, and the video was there, did he simply take his cell phone and do a screen video of what showed up on your account, or do you have
No,
any
he-
idea how?
He took another phone and videoed it off of his phone. Or he had my Snapchat on his phone and took another phone and videoed it
Okay,
from another phone.
all right, thank you, that's all I have.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You can be excused. So do you have one other short witness, Mr. Kalichan?
And we can make this one short. Arthur LaRue is our next witness.
Okay, let's,
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in the matter now before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated. And for the record, would you please state your full name and spell first and last?
Arthur LaRue, ARTHUR LARUE.
Thank you.
Go right ahead, Mr.
Thank
Kelly.
you. Good afternoon, Mr. Lauren.
Hi.
First of all, tell us, what part of the state do you live in?
Wessel,
And how long have you lived there?
27 years.
I'm going to turn your attention to a few names. Misty or Mystique Johnson, you familiar with that person?
Right.
Just give us the background. How did you know Ms. Johnson?
She was my girlfriend.
And you might pull that microphone up.
She was my girlfriend for about 7 years or so.
Do you remember from which year to which year?
Probably 2008 to 2015.
Did you remain friends with her after she stopped being your girlfriend?
I did.
And did you see her on occasion?
I did.
Did you go to her house?
Yes.
And are you familiar with her children too?
Yes.
Dominic Johnson
Yep.
and Taven?
Yes.
Are those the two children?
Yes.
And did they live with her? Did Dominic and Taven live with Misty Johnson in 2016?
They did.
But you weren't living with her in 2016,
No.
correct? And were they living at her grandfather's house
Yes.
in Wasilla?
Yes.
Now, let's talk about how you became involved in this case, okay? And I'm going to be turning your attention to November and December, but mostly for you, December of 2016, and that would be after December 2nd of 2016. Were you, did you go to Misty Johnson's house and obtain some things from her before you left
Right.
one day? Do you remember exactly what day that was or not?
I don't.
Okay, does it make sense that it would have been after December 2nd?
Yeah, I think it was.
Right.
I don't remember the exact date.
Did you get called to come to her house, or were you there for some other reason?
I don't remember. I don't remember whether she called me or I just stopped by after work. I don't recall. the
Was
exact-
Dominic Johnson there?
I really don't remember whether he was there or not.
Did she ask you to get rid of some things?
Yeah, a bag.
Right. And did she say what was in the bag or not?
She didn't say.
Did she say, she didn't say at all, what did she ask you to do with those things?
Get it out of here.
Was she specific as to whether she wanted you to burn them or throw them out or?
No.
Hmm. Did you look inside the bag?
Once I got to my house, I did.
Yeah. So, are you saying there was really no conversation other than, here's this bag, get rid of this, is that? And then you said, yes, ma'am, and you left with the bag?
Well, we were like talking and stuff, and she ended up giving it to me. It wasn't like right away when I got over there or anything like that.
Now, at this point, had you heard of David Grunwald being missing?
I did.
At this point, when you got that bag from her, did you hear that he had been found dead?
I don't remember.
Before you took those things from her, were you aware that the police were looking into Dominic Johnson as a suspect in this case?
I know that they had talked to him,
Okay.
but I didn't know much really about the whole thing.
Okay, for example, before you got these things from Misty Johnson, did you know that Dominic Johnson had taken Sergeant Wigson to the location of David Grunwald's?
I did, yeah.
All right, okay. So now I can tell you that, can we stipulate that was on December 2nd? Purposes of the
with-
time frame?
Yeah. sure.
Okay, so we're in agreement based on the testimony and the reports and all that that happened on December 2nd, if you look at the calendar. So when you got the stuff from Misty Johnson, that would have been after December 2nd, right?
Right.
Okay. So when you got home, you opened the plastic bag, what did you see?
I saw some clothes.
And what type of clothes?
It was a sweatshirt and a pair of pants.
Now, Was there any discussion at Misty Johnson's house about you burning the stuff?
No,
That you remember?
no,
No?
no, but afterwards, she asked me what I did with them, and she kept on asking me, and I told her that I did burn them, but I didn't. I just threw them in the trash after I saw it, and I was like,
So do you remember her exact words when she gave you the bags? What exact words she
get
used?
rid of it or get it out of here, something like that.
And you went home, you looked, and it was what, a sweatshirt and jeans?
Right.
Do you remember, you know what kind of sweatshirt or not?
It was blue. I don't remember. I didn't.
Sorry,
didn't-
I can't
didn't-
hear you.
I didn't take it out of the bag. It was just a blue sweatshirt.
Right. And then what did you do with that stuff?
I threw it in the trash,
Okay.
in the
And-
dumpster.
And near your house?
Right.
And never got it back?
No.
So it was gone forever?
Yeah.
All right. You don't know where that stuff went?
I don't.
All right. Now, you said she reached out to you after that?
Yeah.
And was she the one that initiated the conversation about what did you do with that stuff, or did you initiate the conversation?
I don't remember exactly who initiated it.
And what did you tell her you did with it?
But she kept on asking me what I did with it, and I told her that I burned it just to stop her from asking me. But I didn't. I just threw them away.
In this subsequent conversation, was she trying to get the stuff back?
Well, yeah, that's what I thought, because she said it was Dominic's favorite pants or something like that.
Okay, but you told her you burned the stuff, right?
Yeah,
Okay. But you couldn't get them back anyway, right?
right.
Okay. Then, from what I remember, were you at Misty Johnson's house on Thanksgiving that year?
Yes.
And who was present for Thanksgiving on that year at Misty Johnson's house?
Me, Misty, Taven, and Bradley and Austin. They said that they didn't have anywhere to go for Thanksgiving, so we invited them over. We said they could stay over for dinner.
Did they spend the night or not?
I don't think so.
By Bradley, you mean the person here?
Right.
The dark jacket?
Yes.
Bradley Renfro, did you know him from before?
No, I think we had seen him once or twice before, but I didn't know him.
Did you know he was one of Dominic's friends?
Right.
Okay, got it. Did you know Austin Barrett from before the time you saw him?
I think we had met him once or twice before, but I didn't, he had so many friends.
Was it in the same context? You knew him, you knew Austin Barrett as one of Dominic Johnson's friends? Now, did Dominic Johnson show up for Thanksgiving?
Nope.
No,
No, he did not.
not at all?
No, I don't think so. He didn't eat with us.
Is
I
it
don't know.
possible he showed up briefly on
I
Thanksgiving?
think he might have, but I
And
can't
do you remember what happened?
I don't remember.
You don't have a memory of that, but you do remember that does it ring a bell that he came briefly?
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving while Bradley Renfro and Austin Barrett were there?
Right.
But
Yes.
he did not sit at the table, he didn't eat at the table, right?
No, he didn't.
Do you remember if he came after dinner or before dinner?
I don't
Or during
remember.
dinner, or any of that kind of stuff?
I don't.
Okay. Now, there is one more thing I wanna cover with you. The subject of the videotape. Now, did you see a videotape of Dominic Johnson making certain statements about assaulting another person, or did you hear any of the audio for that?
I heard audio. I didn't actually see a video.
Who was playing the audio?
Andrea
Where was this at?
at Misty's grandfather's house.
And was Misty there?
Yes.
And where was Andrea and Misty?
And
In the house, I'm saying. Where were they? Were they sitting, or were they standing, or what were they doing?
I can't remember. I think we're standing
And how far away were you from them?
a couple feet.
Yeah. And how long was the audio that you heard?
Not very long, a couple of seconds.
And what do you remember about it?
Dominic said I hit him in the head.
And that you can't give us, that's all you remember?
Yeah.
Did that video ever, or audio ever resurface, or was that the only time that you had been exposed to it?
Yeah, that was the only time I ever heard it.
And as far as you know, so what I'm asking is, did you ever see it appear on Misty Johnson's phone?
No.
Or any of her electronic devices?
No.
And what do you remember, did you see, obviously we just had Andrea's testimony, but did you see, for what it was worth, did you see what precipitated, did you see did Andrea come over, knock on the door? Did you view any of the event before they started looking at the video?
No, I don't.
No? Were you doing something else, or? what?
I don't remember how it played out exactly. I just heard that. It was, yeah.
And then, did you read anything into Misty Johnson wanting you to get rid of a sweatshirt and a pair of jeans after December 2nd, or not?
What do you mean?
Well, did you start to wonder why, the whys, why is she giving me these things?
Yeah, afterwards I did.
But not during?
Well, when after I threw them away, I thought about it. It might have had something to do with that.
Did you have some regrets about throwing the stuff away, or not?
Yeah, but she said that she told me that afterwards that it was what he was wearing when he showed them where David was. That's why she didn't want it in the house.
All right.
Parties want to approach real quick before we do cross-examination? Okay, cross-examination.
No cross for Mr. LaRue.
Okay. All right, sir, you can step down. Okay, at this point in time, anything else we want to address? Call anyone?
Given the
Time?
time,
Okay.
I think time out.
We're going to
Time's up.
go ahead and excuse the jury for the day. We will see you at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Thank you. Okay,
I
please
just
be
got
sit.
one-
Huh?
I do have one thing for the court, Judge. And
Yeah,
it's
go ahead.
the same as last time, not a legal issue, but Ms. Johnson is here. Because we were busy in court, I didn't have a chance to talk to Ms. Johnson, neither in the morning nor on a break. But I would ask, because,
Why don't you bring her on? and
I would ask her
tell the
to
state.
have the court
Okay.
tell her that the subpoena, her subpoena's continued until 8:30, and of course,
And who do we want, who else is coming tomorrow?
well, I know the crew, I always leave my paper for tomorrow. at the office.
As long as the
But I
defense
believe
counsel
it's-
knows who's coming tomorrow?
Ms. Bledsoe, I believe, is coming tomorrow. And I probably have it on my phone in one of the emails to Ms. Vanasse too, but if Sergeant Wigson has it handy, I could probably, if I do some thinking here, it's been a long, these days tend to be a little bit long, and I kind of go to the office and regroup, but I believe it's Ms. Bledsoe tomorrow. I believe it's Investigator Ballesteros, Sergeant Colt coming tomorrow. Right? Just a second. Oh, yeah, so the only person I'm missing is Trooper Somerville. So our lineup tomorrow, obviously Ms. Johnson's gonna carry over. So then we'll have Alyssa Bledsoe, and I might put Trooper Somerville if he's here, he's super short. Somerville, Bledsoe, Ballesteros, and Colt makes for our day tomorrow.
All right. At this point in time, why don't you go get Miss Johnson?
Okay, I will see if she's out there. You can stand here, or you can come up to the podium.
Either way, ma'am, just want to, we didn't get to you today, so you're still on the subpoena. Can you be here tomorrow at 8:30?
8:30, okay.
And you shouldn't, then after that, you should be released from your subpoena, okay?
Okay.
Ms. Johnson, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
If she can wait for me, we have to figure out accommodations, meals, that kind of thing. Can you please wait in the hallway
Yeah, I'll
for
just
me?
be out there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, that should do it. We are off record. I'll see everybody tomorrow